Chapter 716. Terrifying Monster. 1. The smell of blood gradually disappeared. In the air, the faint will also disappeared. The few supreme experts had already forgotten about that white-robed young man. No matter how heaven-defying he was no longer a genius after being killed. This white-robed young man was just a dazzling meteor. The 5 super experts had all turned their attention to Shiman Wushuang. Shiman Wushuang looked at Ling Haotian with a sharp gaze. They had agreed to work together when they had transmitted their voices earlier. At least, they would not be isolated if they worked together. He had never thought that the first to attack him would be his ally. Ling Haotian. Despicable. Ximen Wushuan's face revealed a vicious expression. Although anything could happen under such circumstances, he still couldn't help but curse. When he said this, the others immediately understood what was going on. Humph. Can you say that it's despicable in this place? Everyone, let's do it. We've already killed one inheritor. Now that we've joined forces to kill Shiman Wushuang, maybe 2 more people will appear. Ling Haotian's expression was natural, and he didn't take it seriously at all. Moreover, he even incited a few other super experts to join forces to kill Shiman Wushuang. At this time, he knew that Shiman Wushuang hated him to the bone. He had to kill Shiman Wushuang. Otherwise, he would have to waste his time. Roar! Roar! The 2 monsters roared. The originally 10-meter-tall monster instantly doubled in size, and its entire body was filled with blood red. A terrifying aura of destruction erupted. Shiman Wushuang kept waving a small flag with both hands and kept muttering something. In an instant, the auras of the 2 terrifying monsters reached a terrifying level. The peak of the 8th rank and 9th rank, the Great Circle. Pseudo-rank 9? A pseudo-rank 9 existence. What a terrifying aura. Do it or we will be killed. The few 9th firmament martial saints were shocked when they saw the strength of the 2 monsters. Rank 8 and rank 9 were not considered terrifying. They were all 9th heavenly layer martial saints. Even if they fought alone, they had a chance of defeating this monster. Now that he had 5 super existences on his side, he could completely take care of 2 level 8 and level 9. However, when he saw that the monster's cultivation had reached pseudo-tier 9, he immediately became afraid. Pseudo-tier 9 was the super realm of tier 8. Half of the realm had already entered tier 9. Entering tier 9, what kind of concept was? One did not need to say it to understand. That was the existence of the martial god realm. The martial god realm was a legendary realm. In the divine martial continent, there were 10,000 9th heavenly layer martial saints who had a slim chance of becoming a martial god. A martial god could kill thousands of martial saints with a wave of his hand. The war god was powerful because he had already come into contact with the natural laws of the world. With the power to control the great Tao of heaven and earth and destroy the world, a martial saint expert was not even comparable to an ant in front of a martial god. Although these 2 monsters were not tier 9, they had already reached pseudo-tier 9. They were countless times stronger than tier 8 and level 9. Boom! One monster guarded Shiman Wushuang while the other monster swung its huge claws down. The claws did not have any tricks. They had already reached the point of returning to their original state, turning the rotten into the magical. The space was torn apart, and the destructive power bombarded Ling Haotian and the others. It seemed like this attack was aimed at one person, but in front of this attack, the 5 super experts felt the same, and their expressions kept changing. The destructive aura almost directly imprisoned the 5 of them. His speed was restricted. In front of a pseudo-tier 9 monster, this bit of speed and time was enough to destroy any powerhouse. Boom! With a scream, Ling Haotian was thrown into the air. A mouthful of blood sprayed in the air, and his body drew a perfect arc. Rumble. Rumble. Destructive attacks landed on Ling Haotian's body. However, at this moment, Sima Qing and the others launched their destructive attacks at the monster. Roar! Bang! The ground trembled as the monster was smashed to the ground by the 4 destructive attacks. Its terrifying defense and 4 destructive attacks were unable to destroy it. However, the combined attack of the 4 super experts had weakened the monster's aura by quite a bit, and its power did not start to grow stronger. At the same time, Shiman Wushuang's face turned pale. Obviously, this monster was related to Shiman Wushuang. If the monster was injured, Shimin Wushuang would also be injured. Bang! Ling Haotian fell to the ground and spat out another mouthful of blood. He had no strength left in his body. He was half dead from the monster's attack. His eyes were filled with fear. He quickly moved to a corner and trembled as he looked at the two terrifying monsters. Die! Sima Qing, Zhou Haoming, and the other three did not hesitate at all when they saw Ling Haotian's appearance. They sent a destructive attack towards Ling Haotian. Damn it! Ling Haotian was furious when he saw that the four of them still wanted to kill him. Immediately, the true essence in his entire body circulated, and his entire aura became even more terrifying. He did not seem to be injured at all. Under the terrifying aura, an exquisite pagoda appeared in Ling Haotian's hand. The pagoda emitted waves of light, which instantly enveloped him. The moment the halo appeared, for powerful attacks had already bombarded Ling Haotian. Tisk! There was no earth-shattering explosion, no destruction, only the faint sound of a doctor. For attacks landed on the halo and were blocked by it. The halo only trembled slightly. At the same time, the destructive halo continued to devour the true essence and power of the four attacks. Exquisite pagoda! Sima Qing and the others looked at the pagoda in Ling Haotian's hands and the mysterious power it was unleashing. They immediately cried out in surprise. Roar! They didn't expect Ling Haotian to be so powerful after being attacked by the monster. If they really thought that Ling Haotian was injured and couldn't fight back, they would fall into Ling Haotian's trap. Now, he was even more afraid of Ling Haotian. Sinister, cunning, and powerful. Just as the few of them were in shock, the terrifying monster roared and a destructive attack bombarded Zhou Mingho. With a scream, Zhou Mingho was thrown out. A claw appeared on Zhou Mingho's chest. The claw was connected to the monster. At this moment, the monster's claw was 100 meters long. The claw twisted Zhou Mingho's chest and pulled his heart out. At the same time, the other claw was already on Zhou Mingho's head. Blood flowed out of his head, and his eyes turned ashen. Boom! Zhou Mingho was completely dead. He fell to the ground, his eyes filled with unwillingness. When Zhou Mingho died, the exquisite thug in Ling Haotian's hand burst out with a halo, repelling several attacks. Ling Haotian's expression was unfocused, and all the strength in his body was completely exhausted. Roar! Rumble! At this moment, the monster roared, Zhou Mingho died, and Ling Haotian no longer had any fighting strength. However, the monster was not injured at all. They had not expected this outcome. Sima Qing, Tian Qingzi, and Yunfeng gave up on Ling Haotian and charged towards the monster. If they attacked Ling Haotian again, the monsters would kill them. Moreover, Ling Haotian didn't have any strength left. He didn't have the ability to fight anymore. Under the eyes of the three super martial saints, he had nowhere to hide. Sky dance slash. Ling Shuang ride the sword. Heaven exterminating God finger. The three of them looked at each other and no longer hid anything. They bombarded the monster with 3 destructive attacks. Roar! The huge claws also attacked the 3 of them. The pair of bloody claws still had the aura of blood. In an instant, the claws arrived in front of the 3 of them and bombarded Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi fiercely. However, at this moment, 3 destructive attacks also bombarded the monster. Rumble! 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 Bang! Bang! The sky shook and the earth shook. Destructive explosions sounded and energy shot in all directions. The 3 attacks bombarded the monster's body. The destructive attacks tore the monster apart. Even the pseudo-9th level demonic beast was attacked by the 9th heavenly layer martial saint at this moment. However, before the monster fell, Tian Qingzi and Yunfeng were also hit by a pair of claws. Their protective shields disappeared, and they were thrown out. They spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. Roar! At the last moment, the monster let out a miserable cry and disappeared quickly. When the monster fell, Shimin Wushuang also spat out a mouthful of blood. His body fell down and appeared on the ground from the black hole. At this moment, the black hole also quickly disappeared. This is great. Shimin Wushuang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked coldly at the people on the ground. A sinister smile appeared on his face. Now, although he was injured, there was still a terrifying monster. This monster could casually kill any expert present. Moreover, at this moment, everyone present was injured. Only Sima Qing was not injured. Even so, Sima Qing was still not the monster's match. In this situation, it was obvious that the final victor would be Shimen Wushuang. Ling Haotian didn't have the strength to fight back at all, and the true essence in his body disappeared. Zhou Mingho had already fallen, and Tian Qingzi and Yuneo Tian were also heavily injured. Shimen Wushuang, aren't you afraid of the wrath of heaven for using the Umbra Beast? Yuneo Tian looked at the monster beside Shimen Wushuang and said indifferently. After he finished speaking, everyone looked at Yuneo Tian. They did not expect Yuneo Tian to actually recognize this nether beast. He had known the nether beast for a long time, but he didn't say anything and even injured everyone. He had evil intentions. You know the Umbra Beast? Not bad, but you're injured now. I'm the final victor. I'm the only one who can leave. Ling Haotian, you're despicable. A faint smile appeared on Shimen Wushuang's face as he looked at Yuneo Tian in surprise. Then his gaze shifted to Ling Haotian, and his eyes flashed with a sharp light. He was filled with killing intent. He hated Ling Haotian to the bone. Chapter 717, Destruction Saber, 1. Shimen Wushuang walked towards Ling Haotian step by step, his eyes filled with killing intent and hatred. Ling Haotian watched as Shimen Wushuang walked over. His expression kept changing. He already knew that he had no chance. In his current situation, not to mention Shimen Wushuang, even an ordinary warrior could kill her. Roar! The other monster let out a loud roar, and a destructive attack shot towards Sima Qing. Because Sima Qing saw Shimen Wushuang walking towards Ling Haotian, he threw an attack towards Shimen Wushuang. Naturally, the monster would not allow Sima Qing to attack Shimen Wushuang. A huge and terrifying claw clawed fiercely at Sima Qing, and a destructive aura spread out in the air. With a muffled sound, Sima Qing was smashed onto the ground. However, Shimen Wushuang was also hit by Sima Qing's attack. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his body was thrown forward, almost falling to the ground. Kill him! When Shimen Wushuang saw Sima Qing sneak attack him, he was instantly enraged. At the same time, he glared fiercely at the monster. If it was any other demonic beast, the first thing it would do was to protect its master. However, this monster's Umbra Beast would not do that at all. Its intelligence was also very low. He could only vent his anger on Sima Qjng. Brother Sima, be careful. This is an abyssal beast. It's best if you use fire or metal attacks. Yun Aotian looked at the current situation. Although he knew that only one of them could stay, he would not let go of any chance. If Sima Qing Mie fought the monster, the outcome would be beneficial to him. After all, as long as he did not die, he would still have a chance to reach the 9th heavenly layer of the martial saint realm. Ah! With a scream, Shimen Wushuang's attack landed on Ling Haotian. Ling Haotian no longer had the protection of the exquisite pagoda, nor did he have the slightest defense. He was struck by a 9th heaven martial saint like Shimen Wushuang and died in one blow. His entire body was beaten into smoke and vanished into thin air. Killing a martial artist who had no way to fight back, and with such a big move, it could be seen how deep Shimen Wushuang's hatred for Ling Haotian was. Boom! Boom! A series of explosions rang out as Sima Qing's true qi circulated to its limits, continuously bombarding the abyssal beast. Yunioten, Tian Qingzi, are you two not going to make a move and wait for death? Kill this Umbra beast first. Sima Qing shouted when he saw that Yunioten and Tian Qingzi did not seem to want to make a move. Do it! Tian Qingzi nodded and looked at each other. His figure shot up, and the terrifying true essence and aura around his body soared. However, the target of their attacks was not to help Sima Qing, but to bombard Shimen Wushuang. Boom! Boom! The destructive attacks of the two men bombarded Shimen Wushuang without any warning. Shimen Wushuang was instantly shocked, and his eyes revealed a look of fear. At this moment, the Umbra Beast was being held back by Sima Qing. He was at the side and was very far away from the Umbra Beast. He knew that the Umbra Beast would not help him. Facing the attacks of two experts of the same level, he could only use his strongest defense and attack. Bang! Boom! 3 attacks intersected, and 2 attacks collided. However, Tian Qingzi's other attack collided fiercely with Shimen Wushuang 1's body. With a muffled sound, Shimen Wushuang's body was thrown out and fell to the ground. Boom! With another explosion, Yun Aotian's attack struck down again. Without any suspense, the life of a 9th heavenly layer martial saint would also become very fragile under such circumstances. Roar! The Umbra beast let out a furious roar, and its huge body quickly disappeared. In the end, it completely disappeared from the world. Shimen Wushuang had fallen, and the Umbra beast had been destroyed. This was because the Umbra beast was Shimen Wushuang's summoned beast. As long as one party was injured or killed, the other party would also die. The air froze. Silence. Silence. 6 super experts, Ling Haotian, Shimen Wushuang, and Zhou Mingho had fallen. Yun Aotian was injured, Tian Qingzi was injured, but Sima Qing was not injured at all. The entire process had only taken a moment, but in that moment, 3 9th heavenly layer martial saints and 2 fake rank 9 abyssal beasts had fallen. Sima Qing, there's only the 3 of us now. Let's see who can leave this place. Yun Aotian said coldly, breaking the silence in the hall. He looked coldly at Sima Qing, then exchanged glances with Tian Qingzi and nodded. The true essence in his body was circulated to the extreme. In the hall, the aura of destruction was constantly emitted, filling the entire hall. For a moment, the air was filled with a strange and oppressive atmosphere. So the 2 of you have already joined forces. Not bad. The 2 of you are injured. Even if you join forces, you might not be able to kill me. Only one of you can leave this place. Even if you join forces, we will fight to the death later. Sima Qing looked at Yun Aotian and Tian Qingzi and understood everything. He was shocked. Even he did not have any chance of winning when 2 9th heavenly layer peak martial saint experts joined forces. However, this sentence stirred up the discord in the hearts of the 2. They were not on good terms on the surface, and they both understood that they would fight to the death later. However, they did not say anything now and maintained a temporary alliance. However, when Sima Qing said it out loud, their expressions changed. Even if you die and I die later, you have to die first. I feel great watching you die. A smile gradually appeared on Yun Aotian's face, but this smile carried a hint of bitterness. He had dominated the world, had no sect, and was unrestrained. He had reached the peak of the 9th heavenly layer of the martial saint realm, but now, he was going to be destroyed in this place. He knew that his chances of survival were only 1/3. His voice was extremely carefree, as if he was facing life and death calmly. All right, Brother Yun, let's join forces and kill Sima Qing first. Later, we'll decide the victor in one move. If anyone tries to cheat, they will be struck by lightning. They will be plagued by inner demons and will never be able to advance their cultivation. When Tian Qingzi saw Yun Aotian's appearance, he was instantly filled with heroic spirit. The chances were very small now. Even if they killed Sima Qing later, the 2 of them would still have to fight. At this point, he had already let go. Do it. The 2 of them did not speak anymore. Their figures flashed, and an attack that could destroy the heavens and earth blasted towards Sima Qing. Even if he was injured, the power of the 2 of them working together was extremely terrifying. Heaven End Wheel. Destruction Saber. 13 Swords of the Bright Moon. Instantly, the hall was completely destroyed. The 3 martial saints attacked without any hesitation. The divine martial profound heaven sword trembled even more violently, and destructive sword chi continuously spread out. The destructive aura in the air was getting thicker and thicker. Moreover, this dense aura had entered the bodies of the martial saints during the battle. Sima Qing and the other 2 were using all their might, not even bothering to block the destructive aura emitted by the divine martial profound heaven sword. Rumble! Rumble! Puff puff puff. 2 earth-shaking explosions sounded. The 3 super martial saints were thrown out. Screams rang out as the 3 of them spat out blood at the same time. In the end, the destructive trump card was unleashed. Space continued to tear apart, and the destructive tearing power directly tore the 3 of them apart. At the same time, the destructive aura of the divine martial black heavenly sword also corroded their bodies. Bang bang bang. With 3 muffled sounds, Sima Qing and the other 2 fell to the ground, their faces extremely pale. The expression on Sima Qing's face was the most unsightly. 2 experts of the same cultivation level were attacking him with all their might. Even though he had displayed a terrifying defense, he was still heavily injured. Not dying was already beyond Yun Aotian and Tian Chengzi's imagination. They were extremely shocked. There was Ling Haotian and Shimen Wushuang. Each of them was so terrifying. Yun Aotian, Tian Chengzi. Even if the 2 of you join forces, you can't kill me. In this world, the winner is king, and the rest is king. Let's see the power of my destruction saber. Sima Qing, who was originally injured to the point of being on the verge of death, slowly calmed down, and his pale face became rosy. When Yun Aotan and Tian Chengzi saw Sima Qing's appearance, they were both subconsciously shocked. However, what made them feel despair was that Sima Qing's true qi was rapidly recovering. The destruction aura in the air was continuously entering his body. His injuries recovered in an instant, and his true essence also recovered in an instant. Moreover, his cultivation had reached an extreme. Watching Sima Qing stand up, Tian Chengzi and Yun Aotian were extremely shocked. Swoosh! Swoosh! When the 2 of them saw the situation, they forced themselves to stand up and retreated rapidly. Whoosh boom! Kacha in the main hall, Sima Qing's destructive aura tore through the air. His cultivation and true essence had already reached an extreme. Nebula break. Destruction saber. Heaven and earth will be destroyed. Sima Qing did not care about Yun Aotan and Tian Chengzi's movements at all. Instead, he focused on executing the destruction saber's attack. In an instant, a pitch-black saber light appeared in his hand. The saber light was not big, only 3 meters long. However, this saber beam was filled with destructive aura. The destructive aura in the air also continuously condensed. The air continuously tore apart, and space began to tear apart. Yun Aotan and Tian Chengzi looked at the power of the destruction saber, and their eyes revealed despair. What made them even more afraid was that with the appearance of the destruction saber, the entire space began to freeze. They could not even move their fingers. They could only watch helplessly as the destruction fell. Phew! However, at this moment, a soft sound suddenly erupted from the corner of the hall that was originally filled with destructive qi. Even in such a destructive environment like the hall, this light sound was like a clap of thunder that reached the ears of the 3 experts. Because under such circumstances, the outcome was already set. With such a voice, there must be something unexpected happening. All of a sudden, the 3 of them looked toward the corner where the sound came from. Chapter 718, Nirvana Stormbreak, 1. The destruction saber in Sima Qing's hand was getting stronger and stronger. The divine martial profound heavenly sword's destructive aura continued to waft out. Every time the divine martial profound heavenly sword spun, endless destructive aura would be emitted. However, when the 3 of them looked at the corner, their eyes revealed a shocked expression. A terrifying aura of will appeared in that quiet corner. Metal Dao intent. A destructive will wreaked havoc in the space, and the 3 of them could not help but exclaim. This was because the appearance of the will of the great path in this place was definitely not as simple as this. Moreover, this will was the will of gold that focused on destruction. Generally, will was an ownerless thing, but this will believed it. In other words, this will was controlled by an expert. He had always thought that there were only 6 supreme experts and a white-robed young man who had been destroyed. But now, the will of the great path of metal had appeared. It was obvious that there were other experts hiding here, but they had not discovered them. Wood Dao intent. The will of the Dao of water. The will of the fire. The will of the earth. Just as the 3 of them cried out in surprise, for more kinds of will appeared. At this moment, Sima Qing, Yun Aotan, and Tian Chengzi's expressions changed drastically. 5 elements Dao intent. It was actually 5 elements Dao intent. The appearance of 5 kinds of Dao intent at the same time was the perfection of the 5 elements Dao intent. If there were experts with the perfection of the 5 elements Dao intent here, everyone would die. Any 9th firmament martial saint who could control a type of will could sweep away powerhouses of the same level. Moreover, it was the 5 elements' great perfection. It was completely beyond their imagination. Ah! When Sima Qing saw the appearance of the five elements Tao intent, he could no longer hold it in. With a loud roar, the violent destruction saber in his hand bombarded the corner. It was clearly a foregone conclusion, but how could he accept such a change at this time? The destruction saber carried a destructive aura. The saber beam slashed at the corner as if it ignored space. The air was split into two, and the space was also split into two. Tyrant Blade Art. Second move. Solitary Annihilation Wind Cloud Break. A voice rang out. The voice was calm, but there was anger in it. When the voice sounded, a destructive saber beam appeared. It was also a saber beam, but this saber beam carried the pressure of a divine artifact and the aura of destruction. In the hall, the aura of the wind and clouds surged. It was originally a kind of silent space, but in this silence, the wind and clouds surged. The wind and clouds became strange. They followed the saber light and attacked the destruction saber. This saber light seemed to have flown over from the sky, and it seemed to be able to destroy the entire world. Boom! The two saber lights collided with each other as if they ignored the space. The hall began to tremble. The air distorted and began to tremble and tear. However, at that moment, the wind and clouds started to move strangely, and they pressed down on Sima Qing regardless of the distance. Ah! Gotcha! Boom! Wind cloud, wind indefinite, and cloud shapeless were originally the most ethereal existences, but now they were destroyed. The peak of the ninth heavenly layer of the martial saint realm actually screamed in front of the weak Feng Yun. His body was also torn apart, and in the end, he vanished into thin air. The destruction saber and Nirvana wind cloud break disappeared at this moment. The voice from before sounded again, but this time, it was the sound of blood spurting out. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi's eyes were filled with shock and fear. He looked at the corner as if he had seen a ghost. In his eyes, the white-robed young man appeared again. This white-robed young man was the one who was ambushed by the six of them. He was only a martial emperor realm white-robed young man. He did not expect that he would still be intact after such a long time. The young man in white who appeared was naturally Li Lingtian. When he entered the Nine Divine Palace's teleportation channel, he felt a wave of unease. This kind of uneasiness was absolutely destructive. With his achievements, he could use his senses to resist unknown dangers many times. Moreover, he understood that the only thing that could threaten him and make him feel uneasy was an attack that could destroy the world. However, he did not expect that this threat was not brought by the passage, but by the outside world. When he appeared in the Divine Martial Hall, the first thing he felt was the existence of the Divine Martial Black Heavenly Sword. This powerful divine weapon was a threat, but it could not threaten his life. Moreover, this threat was not the main one. At the same time, he discovered 6 powerful destructive auras. These were 6 super heaven-defying experts. They were even more terrifying than the 9 martial saint super experts he had encountered outside the destruction cyclone. He immediately understood that this threat came from the 6 super experts. All kinds of defenses had already been cast, but they never expected that they would suffer a destructive blow the moment he appeared. The swirling light was created by Li Lingtian's powerful cultivation base. This gave him some time to prepare. The 5 elements Tao will was activated and all sorts of heaven-defying defenses were unleashed to the extreme. The bombardment of 6 attacks completely dissipated him. This was the truth in the eyes of the 6 powerhouses. However, the truth was that Li Lingtian had already entered the air. Hidden in the air, the 5 elements will of the way could turn into any kind of will and hide after obtaining the 5 elements sacred body. The blood veil was also caused by his blood essence. It was impossible to hide from these heaven-defying experts without paying a certain price. Even though he had paid a terrible price, he had suffered a powerful attack and was seriously injured. However, being able to hide it from a few experts was also a relief. He had been hiding in the dark and watching the battle between the few powerhouses. He was shocked. The heaven-defying power of the 9th heavenly layer of the martial saint realm, as well as the sinister and cunning, had brought him new knowledge. The battle did not last long, but his injuries had stabilized. Seeing Sima Qing kill Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi, he had no choice but to make a move. In this place, If Sima Qing killed Yuneoten and Tian Qingzi, he would have to face Sima Qing. He used the second move of the Tyrant Saber art that he had never used before. Initially, the tyrannical saber art and his cultivation base could not shake Sima Qing at all. However, Sima Qing was not in the right state and was taken advantage of by Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian spat out a mouthful of blood as he fell to the ground. For a moment, the atmosphere in the hall was extremely strange. Logically speaking, Li Lingtian had saved Yuneoten and Tian Qingzi by killing Sima Qjng. However, only one of them could remain at this moment. Hence, there was still a life and death struggle. You didn't die? What a terrifying saber light. Li Lingtian's appearance was beyond their imagination. Even if 2 more Ninth Heaven inheritors came, they could still accept it. However, Li Lingtian was a martial emperor and had been vanquished by the 6 of them in one move. However, how could they not be shocked when it appeared again at this time? Naturally, I didn't die. In this world, the person who can kill me hasn't appeared yet. Do you think you can kill me with just your strength? Li Lingtian slowly stood up with a pale face. He reached out to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth and said indifferently. His calm appearance shocked Yuneoten and Tian Qingzi. How could a mere martial monarch realm expert be so calm? Moreover, the Su Ninth Heavenly Layer martial saints had launched a sneak attack when the other party appeared. They were not prepared for it at the first moment when they were teleported out. Under such circumstances, the 6 Ninth Heavenly Layer martial saints had joined forces to launch a sneak attack. They should be able to destroy the other party. Moreover, this young man had indeed been destroyed into ashes, but he had appeared again at this time. Moreover, he was so powerful that he had already exceeded the scope of a martial supreme and a martial saint. Swoosh! As soon as Li Lingtian finished speaking, the air fluctuated and the terrifying destructive aura of the hall was stirred up. A burst of ice and fire aura appeared. Li Lingtian, a level 8 exotic beast of ice and fire, appeared. The exotic beast of ice and fire stood beside Li Lingtian and glared at Yuneoten and Tian Qingzi fiercely. At this moment, even if Li Lingtian was a martial supreme, Yuneoten and Tian Qingzi did not dare to make a move with a tier 8 ice and fire exotic beast protecting him. Swoosh! There was another spatial fluctuation, and the silver-winged flying dragon appeared. The peak of level 8, level 5, was equivalent to the complete 5th firmament of the martial saint realm. Although he was still very weak in front of a 9th heavenly layer martial saint, he had already played a crucial role at this time. With 2 powerful demonic beasts guarding Li Lingtian, coupled with Li Lingtian's terror, the expressions on Yuneoten and Tian Qingzi's faces kept changing. After summoning the 2 demonic beasts, Li Lingtian tossed a pill into his mouth. The powerful medicinal pills quickly turned into true essence, constantly healing the injuries in his body. His face gradually became rosy. He stood up slowly and looked at Yuneoten and Tian Qingzi coldly. At this moment, there was no time to wait. He could only leave after killing 2 9th heavenly layer martial saints. Otherwise, he could only die here. Swoosh, swoosh. Yuneoten and Tian Qingzi also stood up, slowly mobilizing the true essence in their bodies. The martial monarch realm experts who were treated as ants in the past had now become the most terrifying opponents. You said before that only one person can leave this place. What would you do if I gave you 2 a chance to leave? Li Lingtian's heart raced as the terrifying 5 elements will began to circulate throughout his body. The 5 elements sacred body supported the 5 elements will, and the space was instantly filled with the 5 elements will. Even the divine martial black heavenly sword's destructive aura was shaken away. For a moment, the atmosphere in the hall was extremely strange. The terrifying power and powerful aura shocked the 2 martial saints. This power and aura had completely surpassed the martial emperor realm. Even an ordinary martial saint was far inferior to it. Moreover, this young man had also mastered the 5 elements Tao intent to the peak, and his power was extremely powerful. If he couldn't kill it in one strike, the consequences would be troublesome. This was because the 5 elements Tao intent could be hidden in any corner or in the air. However, Li Lingtian's words stunned Yuneoten and Tian Qingzi. Both of them can leave this place? How is that possible? Only one person can leave this place. After the 2 of them were shocked, they both exclaimed. He looked at Li Lingtian with a sharp gaze. A 1/3 chance of leaving was not as good as a 100% chance. If he really had the ability to leave, it would be a narrow escape. Chapter 719, Martial God Shadow 1. In the Divine Martial Hall, it could be called the Divine Realm. The rules of this place could never be broken. The 9 heirs left one by one, but this time, 6 or 7 of them had gathered. It was impossible for all 6 or 7 heirs to leave. Only one inheritor could leave, so the battle was held here. Now, Li Lingtian had actually said that they could leave together. It was a joke. However, this joke was not funny at all. In the eyes of Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi, this white-robed young man was one of the inheritors. Otherwise, he would not have come here. However, she did not expect Li Lingtian to be not the inheritor. It was possible to call Li Lingtian an inheritor, but he was not the inheritor of the powerhouses in the Divine Martial Hall. Instead, he was the successor and reincarnation of the 9 Yang Saint Lord. The place where he inherited his legacy was not the Divine Martial Hall, but Hidden Dragon Island. Let me tell you, I am not an inheritor. Anyway, we've already reached this stage. Do you think that the AI will leave one person? If the 2 of you have the chance to leave, what do you want to do? Li Lingtian's face gradually broke into a smile. His smile was so casual that it made Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi feel uncomfortable. In this place and under such circumstances, he was still so calm and composed. It made them feel uncomfortable. He walked forward step by step and finally arrived in front of Yunfeng and the other man. You're not the inheritor? Then how did you get here? If I can leave, I don't want this divine martial black heavenly sword. As long as I can leave safely, I'll just need an inheritance. I won't need the divine black heavenly sword anymore. Both of them were shocked when they heard that Li Lingtian was not the inheritor. However, there was no need to know so much now. Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi both said. They were no longer tempted by this divine martial black heaven sword. From the beginning to the end, they had no intention of fighting for the divine martial black heavenly sword. Instead, they wanted to leave the divine martial hall. With their heaven-defying inheritance, their talents and cultivation, they would become martial gods and become the supreme existences of the divine martial continent. Ha ha! Li Lingtian burst into laughter when he heard the 2 powerhouses' words. No matter what kind of expert he was, his life was still the most important. No matter how good the treasure was, how could he enjoy it if he didn't have the life to do so? However, before he could finish laughing, his expression turned into shock. At the same time, Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi's faces were also filled with shock. Boom! Rumble! In the hall, a series of explosions sounded again. The explosions were exactly the same as the last time Li Lingtian had entered. A swirling light appeared on the ground. The light emitted a terrifying and powerful pressure. This pressure was like the might of the heavens. The terrifying pressure was actually able to penetrate the light, which really shocked the 3 of them. A powerful destructive pressure filled the hall. In an instant, the expressions of the 3 changed drastically. They did not expect another inheritor to come. From the looks of it, this inheritor's cultivation was extremely terrifying. The light turned into nothingness in an instant, and a black-robed phantom appeared in their sights. At the same time, the phantom's body burst forth with a shocking pressure. Even though Li Lingtian had unleashed the heavenly demon domain, he was still firmly suppressed. Shadow! Shadow! When Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi saw this phantom, they immediately cried out in surprise, their eyes filled with despair. He looked extremely ugly, as if he had seen a ghost. His body also trembled continuously. It was obvious that he was afraid of the black-robed figure in front of him. Although Li Lingtian did not know who this person was, the terrifying pressure he felt made it difficult for him to move his fingers. Such a powerful pressure was definitely not something that a 9th heavenly layer martial saint could possess. This was because he had just experienced it. Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi were both 9th heaven martial saints. The other 9th heaven martial saints who had fallen were all extremely powerful. However, compared to the current pressure, the 2 were on a completely different level. The more she thought about it, the more afraid she became. Li Lingtian had already thought of many possibilities regarding the pressure and aura, as well as Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi's appearance. However, he dared not admit it, because such a super existence had already exceeded his imagination. Lord Shadow Martial God of the North Jin Kingdom, Yunfeng said with a trembling voice. His face gradually turned pale. As he spoke, the corners of his mouth trembled continuously. His appearance was extremely ugly. He did not look like a ninth heavenly layer martial saint at all. Li Lingtian was also shocked by Yunfeng's trembling voice. He was getting more and more afraid. He had to admit something he didn't want to admit. The black-robed figure in front of him was that extremely terrifying martial god expert. The martial god was a godlike existence. He possessed heaven-defying powerful divine arts and could destroy the world with a wave of his hand. Controlling the laws of heaven and earth, borrowing the power of heaven and earth, crushing any expert to death like an ant. In front of a first heaven martial god, a ninth heaven martial saint was just an ant. It was no wonder Yunfeng and the other man were so afraid. An ant-like existence, An Ing said coldly. Li Lingtian's eyes swept across Li Lingtian and he felt a shiver run down his spine. His entire body seemed to have been frozen by the destructive cold air. The corners of his mouth kept trembling, and his eyes revealed a look of fear. The power of a martial god expert's gaze alone was enough to destroy his mind. Fortunately, this gaze was completely filled with disdain. It swept across and looked at Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi. Within Ying's cultivation base and status, he did not want to fight a mere martial supreme. If he did, it would be an insult to him. On the other hand, the ninth heavenly layer of the martial saint realm still had a little bit of attention. However, at this time, An Ing completely ignored the three of them and directly walked toward the divine martial black heavenly sword. The three of them let out a breath of cold air. At least they would not be attacked by Shadow for the time being. If Shadow really attacked, the three of them would not be able to survive. Divine Martial Profound Heaven Sword. The passageway to the Divine Martial Hall. You can kill yourselves. I don't want to do anything. An Ing walked up to the Divine Martial Black Heavenly Sword, and a terrifying and mysterious aura was emitted from it. However, this mysterious aura did not have any effect on An Ing. An Ing completely ignored this destructive aura and looked at the Divine Martial Black Heavenly Sword with passion. He was a martial god expert, so he had no fear of this mysterious aura at all. However, after arriving in front of the Divine Martial Black Heavenly Sword, Shadow did not take it away. Instead, he spoke softly as if he was talking to himself. When Li Lingtian heard that, he was infuriated. However, he could only quickly suppress it. In the face of the war god, he was no better than an ant. If he was facing a martial saint, he still had hope. However, facing a martial god, he did not even have the will to resist. You want to die? Sensing Li Lingtian's anger, An Ing turned to look at Li Lingtian. With a casual wave of his hand, a shadowy ray of light bombarded Li Lingtian. The speed of the light was extremely fast. It was not a distance of space at all. As he waved his hand, the destructive attack had already reached Li Lingtian. Moreover, the attack carried a sealing power. In front of this sealing power, no expert could move at all. The sound of blood spurting out rang out. An Ing did not look at Li Lingtian anymore after unleashing his attack. A martial emperor powerhouse could be crushed to death countless times with a single finger in front of him. He believed that this attack could destroy a martial monarch realm expert. He turned around and continued to examine the divine martial black heavenly sword. In his eyes, there was only this divine martial black heavenly sword. Bang! Li Lingtian's heart jolted. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, he fell hard to the ground. His entire body felt like it was about to be destroyed and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. He was already seriously injured when he was ambushed by 6 ninth heavenly layer martial saints. Now that he was struck by the war god's shadow, no matter how powerful he was, he would at least lose a layer of skin if he didn't die. As he fell to the ground, Li Lingtian's mouth was bleeding profusely. The ice and fire monsters and silver-winged flying dragons were about to attack Shadow but were stopped by Li Lingtian. Going at this time was simply courting death. He sat cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. He did not care about anything else, because he couldn't shut it down even if he wanted to. He could only leave it to fate. Chi-chi, chi-chi, A series of soft sounds rang out as the mysterious destructive aura and the dark shadow's aura continuously collided. The two of them emitted a powerful collision. Although an Ing was a martial god, the divine martial black heavenly sword was an ancient Khanate treasure with the word Shintan on it. The aura on it had fused with the aura of the divine martial hall. It would not be easy to take it away and open the divine martial hall. Those who came here had all received the inheritance and knew that the divine martial black heavenly sword was the key to opening the divine martial hall. As long as he could obtain the divine martial black heavenly sword, the divine martial hall would truly open, and people would be able to leave this place. Forbidden God curse. Seeing that the divine martial black heavenly sword was unmoved, an Ing revealed an anxious expression. Although he was the strongest in this place, if he could not take the divine martial black heavenly sword away, he would not be able to open the divine martial hall and complete the mission. He couldn't leave the divine martial hall either. A dignified martial god expert had a bright future ahead of him, so he naturally didn't want to die in this place. In the end, he used a powerful divine art. He cast a series of spells, and a blood-red light wheel appeared in his hand. The light wheel kept spinning along with the spells. A mysterious and terrifying aura of blood was emitted from the light wheel. The aura kept colliding with a mysterious aura of destruction. For a moment, there was no way to determine the winner. Activate. After a long time, sweat appeared on Shadow's forehead. It was obvious that he had no way to take the divine martial black heavenly sword. Even if he wanted to take it away, he would not be able to see it like this. In the end, an Ing let out a soft shout and circulated all the vital essence in his body to the extreme. He grabbed at the divine martial black heavenly sword with one hand. His palm was covered in a blood-red halo, and he looked extremely terrifying. Chapter 720. Fighting the Martial God. 1. Tisk. The palm with the blood-red halo finally grabbed the divine martial black heavenly sword. A piercing sound was heard. Walala. Kachak. Boom. Boom. All of a sudden, a destructive aura erupted in the hall. The destructive aura on the divine martial black heavenly sword continued to erupt, causing the hall to tremble. The space was being destroyed, and the divine martial black heavenly sword was trembling non-stop. As it trembled, it repelled the aura of the shadow. However, the divine martial black heavenly sword was now ownerless. Moreover, Shadow was the inheritor of the 9 great inheritors. He carried a mysterious aura on his body, and had a certain resistance against the rejection of the divine martial black heavenly sword. Time slowly passed, and the divine martial profound heaven sword's trembling slowly weakened. Ha 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 ha. An Ing laughed loudly when he saw that the divine martial black heavenly sword was about to be controlled. As long as he could obtain this divine martial profound heaven sword, coupled with his talent and cultivation, he would be able to roam the divine martial continent without any threat. However, at this moment, the expression on his face changed. He could not help but shift his gaze away from the divine black heavenly sword and look behind him. Li Lingtian had also recovered from his meditation as he looked at the floor on one side of the hall. Yun Eotan and Tian Qingzi also looked at the ground in shock. A ray of light appeared. That ray of light emitted a powerful and terrifying aura, and there were traces of flames flickering. It looked extremely mysterious, and this situation made the 4 people present extremely surprised. Bang! With an explosion, the light exploded, and the destructive light scattered like stars. The space trembled. A girl in black stood on the ground behind the light. The girl's beautiful eyes looked around. Her snow-white skin and neck were like jade. She was dressed in black, her face was exquisite and perfect, and her body was emitting a cold aura. It gave people a feeling of being thousands of miles away. Its ethereal temperament and icy aura made people not dare to have the slightest blasphemy. Li Lingtian's heart trembled when he saw the girl. He did not expect to meet this woman in this place. This world was really not big. Tian Xian, that's right. He was the super genius of the Tian family from the divine continent that he met in the heavenly Fire Mountain range. He didn't expect to meet him again after such a long time. At the same time, Heaven Heart felt the destructive aura and the terrifying threat. Her beautiful face revealed a look of fear. He looked at An Ing and his heart trembled. Dark Shadow, the dark shadow of the northern Jin kingdom. Heaven Heart's voice was calm and cold, but one could feel the uneasiness and trembling in his voice. Even if she was a super genius of the Tian family of the Divine Prefecture, she still had no confidence in facing a martial god expert. She could only admit that she was unlucky to have landed in this place. This place was filled with supreme experts. Moreover, they were all existences that had obtained an inheritance. In addition, there was a martial god. She could only leave it to fate. His gaze slowly shifted to Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi. When he saw that both ninth heavenly layer martial saints were suppressed, he felt even more despair. Immediately, his gaze swept past Tian Qingzi and landed on Li Lingtian. When she saw Li Lingtian, her eyes revealed a hint of strangeness. However, when she realized Li Lingtian's condition, she felt even more uneasy. To her, Li Lingtian's strength was absolutely invincible. Now that he was in such a state, she had no confidence in leaving this place. "You're here too." Tian Xian subconsciously shifted toward Li Lingtian. In this place, Li Lingtian could be considered to be acquainted. The others were all ninth firmament martial saints, and there was even a martial god powerhouse. They were all heaven-defying opponents except for Li Lingtian, who was a martial supreme and was someone she knew. Even if they were rivals now, at least she knew Li Lingtian. Furthermore, Li Lingtian did not deal with her last time. After arriving at Li Lingtian's side, he asked. Although his voice was still cold, his tone was not as cold as before. "Yeah, you're here too." Li Lingtian nodded. Although Tian Xian was a beauty, he was not interested in beautiful women because he had plenty of beautiful women around him. None of them were inferior to Tian Xian. However, he was extremely shocked in his heart. In just a year, his heaven heart had actually reached the second sky of the martial saint realm. Moreover, he was at the peak of the second sky of the martial saint realm. His entire body was filled with a terrifying and powerful aura. From the ninth heaven martial emperor realm to the second heaven martial saint realm, these three realms were definitely difficult to cross. He didn't expect heaven heart to break through so easily. With the addition of the sky screen golden flame, it would definitely be extremely terrifying. While he was shocked, Heaven Heart was also shocked. Back in the heavenly fire mountain range, Li Lingtian was only at the fourth firmament martial emperor realm. However, he was now at the peak of the ninth firmament martial emperor realm. His cultivation speed was beyond her imagination. Rumble! Rumble! In the hall, the divine martial black heavenly sword began to tremble as it was grabbed. And Ying's expression turned grave as well. The divine martial black heavenly sword was beyond his imagination. It was not that simple. If he wanted to control the divine martial profound heavenly sword, he had to refine it. However, the divine martial profound heavenly sword was an ancient profound heavenly treasure, and it could be refined so easily. The divine martial profound heaven sword continued to emit a destructive aura. This aura was countless times stronger than before. Even shadow was corroded by the aura. Yun Aotian and Tian Qingzi had already been thrown into the air and crashed into a corner. The divine martial black heavenly sword is not something you can control. Just give up. Li Lingtian shouted. As a super holy array master, he had seen countless treasures and could naturally tell the might of the divine martial black heaven sword. Even a martial god would find it difficult to control the divine martial black heavenly sword. As soon as he opened his mouth, everyone's eyes fell on him. Yun Aotian, Tian Qingzi, and Tian Xian were all looking at him. And Ying's cold gaze swept across Li Lingtian. His gaze was so solid that Li Lingtian's heart trembled. Die! And Ying was already extremely frustrated, but he was instantly enraged when he heard Li Lingtian's words. After a cold snort, he waved his hand and another destructive attack was launched. There was a hint of confusion and surprise in his eyes as he had already attacked Li Lingtian. He did not expect that a martial monarch realm expert would not die in front of his attack. Damn it, I don't care about you. Do you think you're a big shot? The 9 heavenly stars. Li Lingtian could not hold it in any longer when he saw Shadow launching another attack. Even if he died, he couldn't be so aggrieved. He had been plotted against and then attacked by the war god. Now, someone was attacking him. Did he really think he was easy to deal with? After saying that, he circulated all of his vital essence and the 99 5-colored spiritual pearls. An independent world appeared. Boom! The destructive martial god's attack fiercely struck the 9 heavenly stars. Bang! With a muffled sound, the 9 stars in the sky trembled, but the attack was blocked. Li Lingtian was almost killed when he was attacked by the shadows. Fortunately, he had the protection of the limitless feather coat and the powerful physique of the true dragon's body protection. But now, he had unleashed the 9 heavenly stars and the heavenly demon domain. The power was naturally powerful and heaven-defying. An Ing exclaimed in surprise when he saw Li Lingtian's 9 sky stars blocking his attack. He was a little careless when he did not manage to kill Li Lingtian in the beginning. Now that the power of his attack had increased significantly, he believed that he could definitely kill Li Lingtian. However, there were always things that exceeded expectations. Li Lingtian was a martial supreme, yet he managed to use such a magical divine ability to block the martial god's attack. 5 elements sacred body. Heavenly sword body. Flaming sacred body. Heaven extreme tyrant emperor saber. Tyrant saber art. Second move, Nirvana wind cloud break. Li Lingtian did not hesitate at all. Since the battle had already begun, he could not stop. He didn't have the slightest bit of confidence in fighting the war god, nor did he have the slightest chance. Since he was going to be killed, he had to teach the war god a lesson. While An Ing was still in shock, he had already used several powerful and heaven-defying physiques, and the true dragon body barrier was also activated. The 5 elements sacred body ate up all kinds of heaven-defying existences. With 1 hand and 1 body, the extreme overlord saber appeared in his hand. Suddenly, a destructive saber intent appeared in the hall. The terrifying saber intent carried a destructive aura. At the same time, the destructive aura in the air continuously fused into the saber intent. He was a reincarnation, so it was normal for him to fuse with the destruction chi. The destructive saber intent erupted, and the entire process only took an instant. The tyrannical saber art was displayed. Saber light flashed and slashed out fiercely. The space in the hall was split into 2 by this slash. It arrived in front of Shadow as if it ignored space. Shadow heart. An Ing was infuriated when he saw Li Lingtian attacking him. However, he was shocked when he discovered Li Lingtian's various heaven-defying physiques. Any one of these physiques was enough to shake the entire divine martial continent. However, they did not expect Li Lingtian to possess all these physiques. Moreover, they were so heaven-defying. Even the martial god didn't dare to be careless. He pointed with 1 hand, and a ray of light appeared in the void. In his palm, a strange-shaped weapon slashed fiercely at Li Lingtian's saber radiance. This light figure was like a shadow. Boom! The 2 destructive attacks collided in an instant. The space was quiet for a moment, but after this short silence, there was endless destruction. The space was shattered, and the wind raged in the air, causing the air to distort. Yun Aotian, Tian Chengzi, and Tian Xian looked at Li Lingtian in shock. They did not expect Li Lingtian to be so heaven-defying and have the guts to fight the martial god. Just this boldness alone made them admire him. Heavenheart's eyes revealed a strange look. No matter what, this young man could make people's blood boil. No matter what, he was always so domineering, so determined, so invincible and so unyielding. He gave off the feeling of a god of war. Even when facing a martial saint or martial god, he never flinched or gave in. He always pressed forward. Chapter 721. The Real Expert. 1. Space was constantly distorted. The strong wind wreaked havoc, making the few super martial saints feel that destruction was eroding them. Yun Aoten and the other 2 felt a huge wave in their hearts when they saw Li Lingtian, a 9th firmament martial emperor, crossing 2 worlds to fight a martial god powerhouse. What was a powerhouse? This was a powerhouse. This was because this young man had the heart of an expert. Even if he was facing an existence that was more heaven-defying than him, he would not be afraid. Gotcha! With a crisp sound, the 2 attacks finally came to a conclusion. Li Lingtian's body was thrown into the air like a kite with a broken string. Just as he was about to crash into the wall of the hall, a strange look flashed across Tian Xian's eyes. With a wave of his hand, a colorful caltrip appeared in his sleeve and swept toward Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was caught by calling and his body was violently dragged along as he spat out a mouthful of blood. He quickly threw his body towards Tian Xin. When he saw Tian Xin save him, his eyes lit up. Dang dang dang. Unexpectedly, the two of them crashed into each other. Tian Xin stumbled back a few steps while Li Lingtian fell to the ground. Seeing Li Lingtian fall to the ground, Tian Xin's face revealed a trace of guilt. Damn it! At the same time, although Shadow was not thrown out, he also retreated 10 meters. To be forced back by a martial emperor powerhouse with a single strike was an insult and humiliation to a martial god powerhouse. At the same time, he was also shocked. He did not expect this martial emperor powerhouse to actually control a top-notch heaven-rank divine ability. It was even a saint-rank almighty divine ability. How could he endure the fact that a martial god was forced back in a head-on battle with a martial emperor? Hush Yuneotan and Tian Qingzi both let out a breath of cold air. He finally understood what it meant to be a monster. A 9th-level martial monarch realm expert had fought a martial god, yet he did not die. He had even repelled the martial god. Just this point alone was enough to shock the world. However, things had gotten serious. The war god was enraged, and their deaths were brought forward. With the existence of the martial god in this place, they would never have the chance to leave. In other words, only Shadow could leave this place. They were just courting death. The two of them looked at each other. Even if he wanted to die, he would drag this martial god down with him. Only when he could leave in the end would he be a true expert. In her heart, she was already leaning toward Li Lingtian. Move aside. Li Lingtian stood up and looked at Yuneotan and Tian Qingzi standing in front of him. He could not understand why Yuneotan and Tian Qingzi were standing on his side. No matter what the reason was, to be able to stand in front of him at this time was also the identity of a comrade. To be able to stand in front of him, this friendship was also worthy of attention. Even if they became enemies in the future, at least they were comrades now. However, even if Yuneotan and the other man were 9th firmament martial saints, it was impossible for them to be a match for the martial god. The difference between the two of them was like the difference between heaven and earth. Ordinary martial saints and martial gods were bound by the shackles and rules of the world. At this time, only a perverted person like him had a chance. He looked sharply at Yuneotan and Tian Qingzi and shouted loudly. Both of them looked at Li Lingtian in confusion before they understood what was going on. Bang bang bang. Li Lingtian walked forward step by step and stood 100 meters away from an Ing with a glint in his eyes. With every step he took, the hall trembled. At the same time, the aura on his body also rose rapidly. The terrifying aura continuously tore through the air in the hall. War God. In front of me, even if you are a true god, I will send you to hell. Li Lingtian's aura had already reached its peak. This aura had completely exceeded the scope of a martial supreme. Even Yuneotan and the 9th heavenly layer martial saint could not help but be shocked when they saw this aura. This was because Li Lingtian's imposing manner was already an existence they looked up to. His hair was blown up by the twisting wind in the air, and his clothes rustled. At this moment, this not-so-majestic figure was completely as steady as an insurmountable mountain range that could block any danger. Heavenheart's heart couldn't help but tremble. This figure seemed to be looking at his invincible father. Illusion, illusion, reality? All of this, Tian Xin, Yuneotan, and Tian Qingzi could no longer tell. It was only when Li Lingtian opened his mouth that he snapped out of it. His tone was domineering and heaven-defying. To be able to say such words in the face of a martial god expert was also heaven-defying. All right, I'll show you how heaven-defying the martial god is later. When the time comes, don't beg for mercy. An Ing watched Li Lingtian's transformation with a shocked expression on his face. His heart was filled with extreme emotions and he was determined to kill Li Lingtian. He did not want to see this young man defy the heavens in front of him. This young man was too heaven-defying. An Ing spoke slowly, and a heaven-defying aura burst out from his body. The aura and aura of a martial god were enough to destroy any expert below the martial saint realm. Don't drag me back. Li Lingtian's divine consciousness stirred as he turned around and flicked his finger. 3 pills were shot at Tian Xin and the other 2 before he turned to look at An Ing again. I've killed countless martial saints and martial emperors, But this is the first time I've met a martial god. I wonder what it feels like to kill a martial god. Are you willing to let me try? Li Lingtian's aura surged to the extreme as the space distorted and tore apart. However, the expression on his face gradually calmed down. In the end, he became extremely calm and relaxed. As he spoke to Shadow, his entire aura slowly changed. He became ethereal, mysterious, aloof, and unreachable. He was like an extraordinary super mighty figure. Boom! His voice sounded like he was asking Shadow, but there was no question in his tone. Instead, it was an insult and provocation. In the air, there was a slight fluctuation. This fluctuation made the few of them extremely surprised. This was because this fluctuation was not caused by their attacks, nor was it caused by their auras. It was because someone had come here. The 9 heirs were already here, and there were other people here. That would be strange. Indeed, someone had appeared in the air, and there was more than one person. In an instant, 6 peerless girls appeared. Every single one of them could stun the world. Every single one of them was peerless and comparable to a goddess. Even a goddess could not compare to them. However, such unparalleled girls had actually gathered together and appeared here at the same time. For a moment, in the face of the powerful and destructive aura, the appearance of a few girls made the atmosphere strange. However, after seeing the cultivation of the girls, they were all surprised. Out of the 6 girls, 4 of them were only at the 7th level of the Supreme Realm, 1 was at the 2nd level of the Martial Emperor Realm, and 1 was at the 9th level of the Martial Emperor Realm. It was indeed extremely strange for such a cultivation to appear in this place. However, Heaven Heart's eyes were filled with shock as though he understood what was going on. At that moment, the 6 girls approached Li Lingtian. They looked extremely intimate, and it was obvious that they were together. In the distorted space, the expressions of the 6 girls became solemn. They were Tang Qingyue and the others. The moment he received Li Lingtian's summon, he knew that he had encountered a heaven-defying opponent. After coming out, he was even more shocked. He did not expect that a martial god expert would really appear in this place. A legendary godlike figure had appeared. Husband, is this it? Shun Mei looked at An Ing and pointed at him with her jade-like finger. Even in this situation, she was still peerless and charming. Instantly, it almost made Yuneotan and the others stagger. A girl actually ignored the martial god like this. What kind of people were these? At that moment, everyone understood that the girls had a close relationship with Li Lingtian. Okay, be careful. Let's see how capable this guy is. Li Lingtian nodded in agreement. Big brother Lingtian. Where are they? Shenyuan Yingying looked at the people behind Li Lingtian and asked in confusion. Her delicate appearance could make all the men in the world go crazy. Even Heaven Heart felt a little envious when he saw Shenyuan Yingying, Tang Ziming, and Tang Qingyue. In terms of beauty, she could not compare to Shenyuan Yingying, but she was on par with Tang Qingyue and the others. However, Tang Qingyue and the others had become Li Lingtian's wives. They exuded a mature aura that she would never possess. Ignore them for now. Let's kill this one first. Li Lingtian did not turn his head. Instead, he kept his eyes fixed on An Ing. The aura around his body was swirling and the space around him was trembling. The heavenly demon region, the true dragon body protection, the heaven and earth reincarnation art, these heaven-defying cultivation techniques had already started to circulate. Damn it! An Ing kept his eyes on Li Lingtian and the others. It was as if they were performing an opera, and he did not take them seriously at all. Moreover, from his tone, it was as if he was trash. He did not know how Li Lingtian managed to bring so many people with him. However, these people were only at the Supreme or Martial Emperor level and could be easily killed. However, Heaven Heart and the other 2 were extremely excited. Li Lingtian must have possessed some heaven-defying treasure since he was able to bring so many people with him. If Li Lingtian were to emerge victorious and lead them out, there would naturally be no need for a great battle. Rumble! An Ying's aura had reached its peak. This aura was many times stronger than Li Lingtian's. The entire space of the hall was completely dominated by the Shadow Ruler. He dominated this space. Everyone found it hard to move their fingers, and their eyes were filled with fear. Gradually, his eyes turned into despair. No matter how powerful Li Lingtian was, he was at the mercy of such an overwhelming pressure. Naturally, he had no chance now. Right now it would be difficult for him to even move, let alone defeat Shadow. Chapter 722. The Terror of the Martial God. 1. Hee. Seeing that Li Lingtian and the others were unable to move in the face of his aura and pressure, and Ying's face revealed a cold smile. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. The pressure and aura of a martial god was always effective against experts below the martial god realm. Now, no matter how powerful Li Lingtian was, he could not put up any resistance under the suppression of the pressure and aura. He glanced at the divine martial black heavenly sword and revealed an evil smile. However, he couldn't laugh anymore. That was because in his eyes, Li Lingtian had moved. He had really moved, and it was not an illusion. Li Lingshan's eyes, which had been locked up, flashed with a glimmer as he waved his hand gently. His hand gestures were extremely natural, and he did not seem to be restrained at all. Walala! As he waved his hand, the space trembled and the confined space was shattered. Li Lingtian had broken through the martial god powerhouse's spatial pressure. This action shocked Ying, Yunfeng, and the others. Although it seemed simple, it was impossible for them to come. A simple wave of his hand was able to break the might of the martial god. What kind of concept was this? This space is the five elements world. In front of me, I am the ruler of the five elements world. Five elements Tao intent. Five elements sacred body. Five elements reincarnation. Li Lingtian spoke calmly. His face was still calm and his eyes carried a faint smile. The winner would be the one who had the last laugh. As he spoke, he waved his hands gently, looking extremely carefree. At the same time, the shocking five elements Tao intent was displayed. Metal Tao intent. Wood Tao intent. Water Tao intent. Fire Tao intent. Earth Tao intent. Li Lingshan's Tao will appeared on his body as he muttered to himself. He completely ignored Ying's shock, Yunfeng's, Tian Chengzi's, and Tian Xin's astonishment. The few of them looked at Li Lingtian and were shocked by what he said. The five elements Tao intent was already heaven-defying, but he did not expect Li Lingtian to possess the five elements sacred body. Who could kill such an existence? Moreover, as Li Lingshan's five elements Tao intent appeared, Tang Qingyue and the rest moved in a flash and surrounded Li Lingtian. Shenyuan Yingying was also by his side. Huangfu Yuyan, Tang Qingyue, Shunmei Tang Ziming, and Qing Ling were cultivating the five elements reincarnation to complement Li Lingtian. Shenyuan Yingying had the five elements sacred body and was with Li Lingtian. While Li Lingtian was channeling the five elements will, Shenyuan Yingying was also channeling the five elements sacred body. The appearance of two five elements sacred bodies at the same time shocked Ying. In the air, the martial god's destructive aura had been destroyed by Li Lingshan's five elements will. Moreover, with the few of them working together, the entire hall was filled with a mysterious aura. Huangfu Yuyan and the other three women began to spin while Li Lingtian and Shenyuan Yingying levitated in the air. The terrifying five elements Tao intent had been unleashed to the extreme. Li Lingtian flicked his finger and extended his hand. A ball of light appeared in his palm. The ball of light turned into light spots and scattered in the hall like stars. At the same time, the specks of light transformed into 99 five-colored spiritual pearls which began to revolve around Li Lingtian. A separate world appeared, the five elements world, forming a clear contrast with this hall. At the same time, the five elements reincarnation and the 9 heaven stars quickly merged. With the help of the five elements reincarnation, the power of the 9 heaven stars increased greatly. Coupled with Shenyuan Yingying's five elements sacred body, its power was heaven-defying. A light shield enveloped Li Lingtian and the others. The light shield was flashing with a five-colored halo. This five-colored world was formed in an instant. Ying, Yunfeng, and the rest were shocked by Li Lingshan's 9 heavenly stars. The terrifying destructive aura and the primitive aura of the five elements filled the hall. Even Shadow, who was at the martial god realm, was shocked and regretful. If they had killed Li Lingtian first, none of this would have happened. Now, the powerful divine ability unleashed by Li Lingtian was threatening him. All right. I'll let you see the true power of the war god. Heaven and earth as one, the power of the war god. Devouring infinity. Shadow world. And Ying was shocked when he saw Li Lingtian and the rest's 9 heavenly stars. Knowing that Li Lingtian and the others were using a saint-level superpower, which was also an almighty's technique, they were envious. Even a martial god like him would not be able to come into contact with the Almighty's divine ability. He did not expect that a martial emperor would be able to cultivate it. If he could obtain this Almighty's divine ability, he would be able to roam the divine martial continent after cultivating it. However, it would take a lot of effort to kill Li Lingtian now. The true origin in his entire body circulated. The true origin of the martial god was equivalent to the cultivation of a 9th heavenly layer martial saint. When his cultivation circulated, the entire hall was filled to the point that it was almost destroyed. As he waved his hand, he almost tore the space apart. In an instant, a destructive halo appeared on his body. The huge shadow world was 100 meters wide. The destructive shadow world crashed into the 9 stars in the sky. Space exploded. Heaven Heart and the other 2 quickly retreated. In such a battle, even a martial saint could not participate. If he was not careful, he would disappear into thin air. The hall shook. The divine martial black heavenly sword trembled continuously at this moment, as if it was about to break through the air and fly out. The 2 terrifying forces quickly collided. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded, and destructive energy wreaked havoc in the hall. Ark! 3 miserable cries sounded out before a muffled sound was heard. Heaven Heart and the other 2 were sent flying by the strong wind. In the end, he fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Martial saint powerhouses were not even considered ants at this time. The more this was the case, the more the trio was shocked by Li Lingtian's strength. Every martial emperor powerhouse was so terrifying. If not for the emergence of the martial god powerhouse, Li Lingtian would be invincible among the martial saints. The 2 huge worlds collided, but there was no explosion or separation. For a moment, there was no winner. The destructive wind and aura continued to destroy the hall. However, the hall was built with countless arrays and could not be destroyed at all. Even after it shook, it was repaired by the mysterious array. Heaven's End Finger. Spirit Eroding Technique. Sky Screen Golden Flame. At this moment, Heaven Heart and the other 2 knew that they couldn't wait any longer. They had to make a move now. If they waited for Li Lingtian to be destroyed, they would be next. And Ying would not let them off the hook. If Li Lingtian survived, they would still stand a chance. The 3 of them did not hesitate at all and bombarded with their strongest attacks. Although a martial saint was not a match for a martial god, an attack at this time was undoubtedly adding insult to injury. 3 attacks landed on the shadow world, causing it to tremble. However, the shadow world was not destroyed. The stars in the 9 heavens also trembled. No matter how powerful and heaven-defying Li Lingtian was, he was no match for the martial god. Even if he possessed heaven-defying divine powers and cultivation techniques, he was still too far away from the martial god. Bang! 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 With 3 muffled sounds, Heaven Heart and the other 2 were bounced back. They spat out a mouthful of blood and their bodies were thrown out. He fell hard to the ground, but a few holes were also pierced through the shadow world. You want to ambush me? You're still too weak. The 9 skies of stars are powerful, but your cultivation is still too weak. If you reach the martial god realm, no one below the 9 skies of stars will be your match. Only one of the 9 heirs can leave this place. There are only 9 of us left. You can die in peace. Shadow's voice was laced with anger. Although the attacks from Heaven Heart and the other 2 did not destroy him during his earlier confrontation with Li Lingtian, he was still injured in the end. At the same time, he also injured the 3 of them. As soon as he finished speaking, the aura of the space changed. The power of the shadow world suddenly increased, and the stars in the 9 heavens trembled even more violently. Boom! With a loud explosion, the shadow world fiercely bombarded the 9 stars in the sky. The stars in the 9 heavens were destroyed, and the shadow world also disappeared. However, Li Lingtian and the others were thrown out before they fell to the ground. At the same time, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and powerless. No matter how heaven-defying he was, the difference in realm could never be made up for. No matter how powerful a martial arts saint was, it was impossible for him to defeat a martial god. It was the same for Li Lingtian. Now, he understood that the martial god realm was completely different from the other realms. The martial god realm was equivalent to a true god. Even if a martial saint was heaven-defying, he was only a mortal and a martial artist. However, a martial god was like a true god. Naturally, he was not someone that experts of other realms could compare to. Qingyue, Yu Yan, Meng Meng, Mei Qingling, Yingying. Li Lingshan's face revealed a trace of guilt. In the past, no matter what kind of threat he faced, he had never felt so desperate. This time, when he encountered the war god, he did not have the slightest bit of power to resist. If this 9 stars in the sky was used against a 9th heavenly layer martial saint, even the most powerful 9th heavenly layer martial saint would be beaten to a pulp. Unlike Shadow, who was a martial god and an invincible existence. The girls looked at Li Lingtian and shook their heads. He didn't say anything. Everything was in his silence. Now you know how powerful the war god is, right? A martial god will never be someone that a martial saint or martial emperor can figure out. Die. There was a trace of blood at the corner of Shadow's mouth. There were 3 small wounds on his chest. It was obvious that he was attacked by Heaven Heart and the other 2. The full-force attack he had just unleashed against Li Lingtian had also been shaken. Although the martial god was heaven-defying, the combined might of Li Lingtian and the others was not something an ordinary person could withstand. Even if they did not die or get injured, they would not have an easy time. Looking at Li Lingtian and the others, a bloodthirsty smile appeared on his lips as the greed on his face intensified. He circulated all his true essence, but his brows furrowed and his face revealed a pained expression. He looked coldly at Heaven Heart. The terror of the sky-screen golden flame was something that any undying expert could understand. Even if it did not kill him, the sky-screen golden flame entering his body would still make him feel uncomfortable for a while. With a wave of his hand, a destructive attack was hurled at Li Lingtian. The destructive force seemed to be about to destroy the entire world. Li Lingshan's face turned pale as his eyes revealed a hint of despair. Chapter 723, Woman in White, 1. Li Lingshan's eyes were filled with despair as he watched the martial god's destructive attack land on him. At this moment, no matter how heaven-defying he was, he did not have the slightest strength to resist. Moreover, even if you had countless treasures, you wouldn't have the chance to use them in front of a martial god. Even if you used them, they wouldn't be able to threaten a martial god expert. The war god's speed was extremely fast. You simply had no chance to use any treasures or ultimate moves. This was the difference between realms, and no treasure or divine art could make up for it. Huangfu Yuyan and the rest could only watch Li Lingtian helplessly. They were mentally prepared to commit suicide and leave with Li Lingtian if he died. Slowly, Shenyuan Yingying and the others revealed a sad smile on their faces. They stretched out their hands and gathered their Zhan Yuan in their palms. Needless to say, they knew what they were doing. Tian Xian, Yuneotan, and Tian Qingzi trembled when they saw their expressions. This was what husband and wife were like. Even when faced with death, they would face it with a smile. They could live and die together. In the divine martial continent, how many people could do that? Boom! The destructive attack arrived in front of Li Lingtian in the blink of an eye. Just as the destructive attack was about to hit Li Lingtian, the hall suddenly changed. Crash! In the hall, a destructive aura appeared. The moment this aura appeared, a ray of light followed closely. The speed was extremely fast. This light was exactly the same as when the inheritor entered. Swoosh! Light appeared, and a destructive aura appeared. At the same time, an invisible finger force with heavenly might bombarded the shadow. If the shadow did not resist, he would die. However, if he wanted to defend himself, he had to divert the attack away from Li Lingtian. Moreover, this aura and attack shocked all the experts present. The aura of a martial god. Another war god appeared. Moreover, this martial god's aura was even stronger than Shadow's. At the same time, Shadow could also sense that the destructive aura came from the martial god, who was even more powerful and terrifying than him. If he killed Li Lingtian, he would be killed as well. Under the balance of life and death, a destructive attack was sent towards the finger force. Boom! Tisk! There was an explosion, followed by the sound of air being cut. Dang dang dang. And Ying's expression was extremely ugly. He spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated more than 10 steps before stopping. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at the expert who had suddenly arrived from afar. The entire process only took a moment. By the time everyone reacted, the attack had already disappeared and Shadow had already retreated. Li Lingtian and the others were shocked when they saw the newcomer. It was a girl dressed in a snow-white veil. She was slender and elegant, and her aura was extremely ethereal. Moreover, this girl's peerless charm was not inferior to Tang Qingyue and the others. Moreover, there was a supreme majesty and holiness to her, just like a saintess. The only thing that could not be seen was the girl's face. Because of the thin veil on her head, only a little bit of her face could be seen. Although he couldn't see her face, just her bearing alone was already peerless. What was even more shocking was that the girl's entire body was emitting an incomparably powerful aura. The aura of the martial god was even stronger than that of the dark shadow. The girl looked at everyone, and wherever her gaze passed, everyone couldn't help but tremble. This was the might of the war god. Unrivaled. His gaze shifted to Shadow. Shadow, I'll give you 3 seconds to commit suicide. Lai Wuxia asked you to come here because there's no need for you to exist anymore. The girl in white looked at Shadow and said calmly. However, his tone was frighteningly loud. Moreover, there was a feeling of superiority and a holy aura that could not be profaned. The moment he opened his mouth, he was asking the martial god to commit suicide. With such a tone, it would be strange if people were shocked. To Li Lingtian and the rest's surprise, Shadow was not enraged. Instead, his face was filled with fear and his expression was becoming increasingly uneasy. It was as if he knew the girl's identity. It's you. I didn't expect you to be here. But if you want me to commit suicide, it will depend on your ability. Shadow's expression kept changing, and his body couldn't help but tremble. A girl who could make a martial god powerhouse tremble was the strangest thing. Li Lingtian and the rest were puzzled and more afraid. This girl was much scarier than Ning. You're courting death. The calm voice was extremely sweet, like the sound of nature. However, beneath this voice was the command of death. The girl waved her hand, and a golden scepter appeared in her hand. The scepter carried a holy aura. In front of this aura, the destructive aura of the entire space was blocked. Moreover, the hall had also quieted down. In front of the aura, there was an impulse to worship. Swoosh! The golden scepter waved in her slender hands. Suddenly, a holy aura enveloped the shadow. There was no destructive aura or power in the aura. However, when Shadow saw this aura, his eyes were filled with despair. He circulated all the true essence in his body and spat out a mouthful of blood. Although Li Lingtian was severely injured in the beginning, he was also injured by Li Lingtian and Tian Xian. Now that he was facing the attack of the girl in white, he was already afraid. His cultivation had been greatly reduced, and his mind was also flustered. A devastating attack was launched at the girl in white, but the attack was blocked by the holy aura less than 10 meters away from her. The destructive attack met the holy aura and disappeared in the blink of an eye. In an instant, a holy aura enveloped Ning. And Ying's entire body seemed to be imprisoned, and his eyes were filled with fear and despair. Gradually, Shadow's life force quickly disappeared until he was completely dead. Hush! Everyone was stunned, unable to believe what they were seeing. A martial god expert was killed so easily. This was too terrifying. A girl was actually so powerful and heaven-defying that she could kill a martial god with a wave of her hand. Yun Aotan and the others were even more shocked. There were 9 inheritors, but now there was one more. This was what shocked them. Li Lingtian was puzzled as well. Although he was not the inheritor, Qing Ling was indeed the inheritor. There was actually one more person in this place. Could it be that a martial god expert had broken it? In the end, it could only be attributed to the martial god breaking through the realm. Otherwise, why would there be an additional person? The shadow fell, and the hall fell silent for a moment. The divine martial black heavenly sword kept spinning. The strange and oppressive atmosphere made everyone in the hall feel endless pressure. You must be Li Lingtian. The silence in the hall was broken by the sweet and clear voice of the girl in white. Her voice was melodious and intoxicating, but no one in this place had such a feeling. After all, this girl in white had killed the martial god with a wave of her hand. No matter how gentle she was, such a heaven-defying expert would still give others pressure. The girl looked at Li Lingtian and stared at him. Her voice was calm. No one knew the expression on the girl's face, nor did they know what she was thinking or what decision she would make. Also, only one person could leave this place. An ing had fallen. In other words, everyone here would die. That's right. Li Lingtian. Fairy, do you know me? Li Lingshan's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the lady in white with a puzzled expression. She didn't know this girl and didn't expect her to call out his name. Furthermore, it was in this place. Those who were able to make it here were all top powerhouses and geniuses in the mystic continent. Although Li Lingtian was famous in the Carefree Empire, he was nothing in the Mystic Moon Empire. Although the tone of his reply was calm, it did not lose its arrogance. At any time, there was no lack of arrogance in his bones. This queen originally wanted to destroy you, but I'll give you a chance. If you can't do it, everyone here will die. Divine Martial Profound Heaven's Sword. If you can take it, I'll let you go. Otherwise, the girl in white said calmly. The aura on her body was very stable. Everyone present could feel that the girl in white was not angry. It would be strange if a martial god was not angry when he saw the martial emperor's tone in front of him. However, at this moment, none of them dared to make a sound. Yun Aotian and the others looked at Li Lingtian after the lady in white finished speaking. Tang Qingyue and the others were the same. They had not died yet, but it did not mean that they would be safe in the future. From the beginning to the end, the girl in white did not reveal how she knew Li Lingtian. All right. Li Lingtian did not hesitate as he stood up forcefully. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He was too heavily injured just now. It was already lucky that he was not destroyed by the shadow. He walked toward the divine martial black heaven sword step by step. The terrifying destructive aura was constantly being emitted. Li Lingtian did not put up any resistance and allowed the aura to erode him. He understood that the aura here would not harm him at all. Instead, it could quickly heal his injuries. Clang! With a crisp sound, the divine martial black heavenly sword trembled as if it had encountered danger, or rather, it trembled in excitement. Li Lingtian came to a spot 10 meters away from the divine martial black heaven sword as he forcefully circulated his true essence. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth, and his face revealed a painful expression. He stretched out his hand, and a mysterious aura appeared. The mysterious aura continued to fill the hall. To everyone's surprise, the aura on Li Lingshan's body was identical to the destructive aura in the hall. The aura on the divine martial black heaven sword was the same as Li Lingshan's. At the same time, the divine martial black heavenly sword trembled. This was because it sensed Li Lingshan's aura. The aura unleashed by Li Lingtian was exactly the same as this destructive aura. Naturally, the divine martial profound heaven sword trembled as well. Everyone was shocked by this change, including the girl in white. She looked at Li Lingtian in astonishment. Under the veil, no one knew what the girl was thinking. P.S. I recommend my good friend Li Xin's fantasy work, Supreme of All Daras. You are welcome to collect and taste it. Chapter 724. Divine Martial Profound Heaven Sword. Heavenly Sword Body. The divine martial black heaven sword trembled continuously as it sensed the aura emanating from Li Lingshan's body. However, when Li Lingtian came into contact with the divine martial profound heavenly sword, it began to struggle. A destructive sword chi erupted at this moment. The sword chi was like a golden light, destroying everything in its path. The woman in white looked at the destructive sword chi and waved her hand. A halo appeared in front of her. At the same time, she looked at the others and the halo blocked everyone. Chi chi, chi chi, the destructive sword chi continuously attacked the light halo, and the light halo continuously trembled. Seeing this, Heaven Heart and the others were shocked. This woman in white killed the martial god with a wave of her hand. Her cultivation was extremely strong. However, in front of this sword chi it actually became like this. How powerful was this sword chi? Now, everyone's attention was on Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was at the center of the sword breath and the destruction energy. Furthermore, he was holding the divine martial black heaven sword. So he was the first to bear the brunt. The destructive sword chi continued to enter his body. At this moment, his entire body had already been corroded by the endless destructive sword chi. With a loud roar, the heavenly sword body circulated. His entire body floated up, and the divine martial black heavenly sword in his hand became even crazier. The destructive sword chi became even stronger. In the entire hall, the array formations that were originally endless were also being destroyed. Although Heaven Heart and the others were blocked by the light, they could still feel the terror of destruction. The heavenly sword body could fuse with any sharp sword in the world. It was a divine body that was supreme in the way of the sword. The golden sword chi turned into a sword light. Wherever the sword light passed, the halo was destroyed. Supreme Saint Art. The woman in white had long felt the threat of death. Although outsiders could not see the change in her expression, her heart trembled. Ever since she became a martial saint, no one had threatened her. He had never felt such a powerful threat before. He was already prepared before the halo was destroyed. The moment the halo was destroyed, spells were cast one after another. A light screen blocked all the sword lights. He blocked the sword light, but he was forced back a few steps. This situation was even more terrifying. The martial god had been killed with a wave of his hand, but he had actually retreated in front of this ownerless sword light. Everyone felt even more afraid of this sword light. However, Li Lingtian remained suspended in the air, allowing all the sword aura and sword radiance to enter his body. He was confident in the strength of the heavenly sword physique. Even if he wasn't confident now, he had no other choice. In front of this destructive sword chi and sword light, not to mention him, even a martial god like the white-robed woman would be killed. The divine martial profound heaven sword was indeed not an ordinary divine weapon. Just its pressure, aura, sword chi, and sword light could destroy any martial saint expert. Whoosh whoosh, whoosh whoosh. Waves of sword chi and sword radiance gradually changed directions and surged toward Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian had allowed the sword chi and sword radiance to be destroyed as well. However, the heavenly sword body and true dragon's body barrier were repairing themselves at the same time. His entire being was caught between destruction and rebirth. If destruction was stronger than rebirth, Li Lingtian would vanish into thin air in an instant. Everyone was on tenterhooks for Li Lingtian, but Li Lingtian was enjoying himself as he closed his eyes slightly. He felt the destruction of the sword chi and sword light with his heart. If he wanted to strengthen himself, he had to destroy himself first. If he couldn't endure the destruction, the enemy naturally couldn't either. Moreover, the strength of the heavenly sword physique and the true dragon body barrier was not something that anyone could feel. After an unknown period of time, Li Lingtian opened his eyes. The divine martial black heaven sword in his hand had quieted down. The sword aura, sword radiance, and destruction energy in the hall had vanished. The hall was completely silent. This hall was just like an ordinary palace. There was no other aura, not even a hint of spiritual energy. When he saw what was in front of him, a hint of confusion appeared on his face. Traces of red blood appeared on the front of the woman's clothes. She was obviously injured. Moreover, the light screen was also shattered and looked extremely miserable. Sacrifice. Li Lingtian did not care about anything else because the divine martial profound heaven sword in his hand had sent him a response. This response quickly connected with his divine consciousness. Without further delay, he used his divine consciousness to sense the divine martial profound heaven sword. Seeing that the sword D and sword light had disappeared, everyone felt slightly relieved. After a full 10 minutes, Li Lingtian wiped his hand and injected a stream of vital essence into the divine black heavenly sword. The divine martial profound heaven sword finally calmed down. There was no longer any aura, as if it had been sealed. The divine martial profound heaven sword has been taken out. What do you want to teach me? Li Lingtian landed on the ground and walked toward the lady in white step by step.
His eyes shone brightly and he was not afraid of the lady in white at all. He arrived before the white-robed woman and spoke to her while looking at her.
The divine martial hall has been opened, and the flames of war have spread throughout the mystic moon empire. Let's go out first. The divine martial hall is about to be destroyed. The woman in white did not dodge at all. Her crisp and sweet voice sounded, but halfway through, her eyes looked at Yunfeng, Tianqingzi, and Tianxian. All right. Li Lingtian was shocked and curious about the lady in white.
It was as if nothing could escape her.
When they came here, everyone thought that Jining would go out alone, but she directly said that everyone would go out. It was as if he knew that he had the divine dragon ring. However, this was not the time to hesitate. He had to go out first. Even if they were to fight later, they had to get out first. Only after they got out would they have a chance to escape. With a wave of his hand, the divine dragon ring was activated, and everyone in the hall disappeared. After he was done, Li Lingtian walked forward step by step and collected the storage pouches of the powerhouses who had perished. These guys were all heirs, and they were all at the peak of the 9th heavenly layer of the martial saint realm. They were heaven-defying geniuses of the Xian continent, so they were naturally extremely wealthy. After tidying up everything, he walked towards the center of the hall step by step. Arriving at the place where the divine martial profound heaven sword started to float, he began to scan it with his divine sense. He had finally found the key to opening the divine martial hall. In the distant sky above the hall, a sword-shaped light shadow flickered faintly. If one did not look carefully, one would not be able to discover it. Li Lingtian did not hesitate at all when he saw the shadow. He extended his hand and shot the divine martial profound heaven sword at the shadow in the sky. Chi-chi crash. When the light shadow and the divine martial black heavenly sword came into contact, a magical sound was emitted. Instantly, the hall began to tremble, as if it was about to be destroyed. Countless buildings began to be destroyed, and the entire hall began to slowly collapse. A light flashed. This light was only the size of a person and could only accommodate one person. It was as if a hole had appeared in the void. Li Lingtian did not hesitate at all when he saw the light shadow. He took a deep breath and flew upwards. When he entered the light shadow, he grabbed the divine martial black heavenly sword with his backhand. He felt as if his entire body was being torn apart by an endless destructive aura. This feeling of being torn apart only lasted for an instant. However, Li Lingtian could feel the destructive aura behind him. It was the aura of destruction that could destroy the entire hall. Bang! With a dull thud, Li Lingtian fell to the ground. The strong impact nearly knocked him out. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood and saw stars. However, he was relieved when he saw the scene outside. This place was already outside and was no longer the divine martial hall. After recovering his mind, he dragged his tired body and walked into the distance. They only stopped when they reached a quieter place. With a thought, the woman in white, Heaven Heart, and the others appeared. After they came out, their faces were filled with excitement, as if they had just come out from the gates of hell. After all, no matter how powerful he was, he might not be able to come out of that place. He did not expect that he would really come out this time. After a short moment of excitement, Heaven Heart and the other two had serious expressions. This was because there was still a martial god expert in this place. Someone asked me to give this to you. I hope to see you in the Mystic Moon Empire. If you don't appear there one day, I will destroy her. As for who Bengong is, you have no right to know. As for who that person is, you don't need to know now. The lady in white looked at Li Lingtian and spoke coldly. Her voice was as cold as ice, as if it came from hell. Following that, she hurled a 3-foot-long sword at Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was shocked, surprised and confused. He couldn't understand a single word the woman in white said. By the time he reacted, the woman in white had already disappeared into the horizon. He could no longer see her shadow. However, at this moment, a crisp sound was heard. Heavenly Spiritual Pearl. These 3 words were ethereal, but they were like thunder in Li Lingtian's ears. He was completely stunned by these 3 words. Heavenly Spiritual Pearl. Heavenly Spiritual Pearl. The words Heavenly Spiritual Pearl echoed in Li Lingtian's mind as his eyes turned misty. A beautiful figure appeared vividly in his mind. Although so much time had passed, this figure could never be erased. He thought of the heavenly spiritual pearl, that beautiful figure, and that charming smile. The care and concern for him, the feelings between the two of them, all of this seemed to have happened yesterday. Heaven Heart and the other two were equally shocked when they saw Li Lingshen's dazed expression. This young man was a heaven-defying monster. He was domineering, peerless, and invincible. However, at this moment, his eyes were misty. It was obvious that he had thought of something he missed. Such a man had an endless gentleness. Li Lingtian stood there in a daze as he muttered to himself, completely ignoring the three of them. However, just as the three of them were about to leave, the mist in Li Lingshen's eyes disappeared and his gaze turned sharp. Do you want to leave just like that? Chapter 725. News 1. Li Lingtian turned around and looked at Yunfeng and Tian Qingzi coldly. His gaze finally landed on Tian Xian. When he saw the slim girl in black, his heart couldn't help but tremble. I don't want to fight you. However, I don't wish for my matters to be exposed. As Li Lingtian spoke calmly, the expression in his eyes changed several times as if he had made a very important decision. After he finished speaking, he waved his hand, indicating that Heaven Heart could leave. Bastard! Tian Xian could not help but curse when she saw Li Lingshen's expression. This guy actually ordered her around like this. It was simply intolerable. At any other time, she would have been able to eliminate Li Lingtian. However, Li Lingshen's strength was too terrifying now. Even if he was injured, she had no confidence in defeating him. After cursing, he flashed and quickly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the sky. You bastard, you'd better not let Ben Gong meet you again. Otherwise Ben Gong will never let you off. Tian Xin's voice came from the horizon, causing Li Lingtian to be stunned. This was the first time he was scolded by someone. He was really speechless. Seeing that Tian Xian had left, the anger from being scolded just now quickly soared. The aura around his entire body also soared, and his gaze was so sharp that it seemed to be corporeal as he looked at Yunfeng and the other man. Either die or submit. The cold voice was even colder than the frosty qi. His tone was decisive, without the slightest hesitation or threat. However, even so, the two of them were shocked. If they had not witnessed Li Lingtian's abilities, they would have easily eliminated him. However, they had witnessed Li Lingshen's strength with their own eyes. He was a martial supreme, yet his strength surpassed that of a martial saint. He was even able to fight a martial god. Even they could not achieve such a feat. Do you want us to submit to you with your strength? Yun Aotin looked at Li Lingtian with an ugly expression. A martial emperor stage powerhouse was actually asking a 9th heavenly layer martial saint to submit to him. Even if he knew Li Lingshen's strength, he still felt that it was unbearable. I don't want to waste my breath on you. However, I can make an exception for you, just this once. Just remember that my name is Li Lingtian. If you follow me, your cultivation base will skyrocket. Li Lingshen's expression was cold as he muttered to himself for a moment. His mind was throbbing as he spoke in a calm voice. With that, he activated his divine sense and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. 2 medicinal pills were poured out of the jade bottle. The medicinal pills emitted a faint aura. The aura was not dense, but when the 2 9th heavenly layer martial saints saw the medicinal pill, their eyes immediately lit up. Then, they were shocked as if they had seen a ghost. The aura of a peerless medicinal pill. A mutated pill. Peerless grade mutated great rejuvenating pill. The two of them spoke incoherently, their expressions completely lifeless. They had never expected that the pill Li Lingtian casually took out would be a peerless mutated great cyclic pellet. Pinnacle grade. Mutated. Great cyclic pellet. These 3 names were the most precious existences in the hearts of martial emperors and martial saints. They were also legendary existences. He didn't expect that the 3 names would actually be together and fuse together. Immediately, she shifted her shocked gaze away from the pills and fixed her gaze on Li Lingtian. At that moment, the gaze that was directed at Li Lingtian turned fiery as if he was looking at a peerless treasure. You are a saint alchemist? Tian Qingzi looked at Li Lingtian and asked in shock. This was because the aura on the pill was Li Lingshan's. In other words, the pill was refined by Li Lingtian. If Li Lingtian really managed to refine a peerless mutated great rejuvenating pill, he would at least be a saint alchemist. They were already at the peak of the 9th heavenly layer of the martial saint realm, and were only one step away from the martial god realm. However, it was extremely difficult for them to take this step. However, if he had a saint alchemist by his side, his chances would be much higher. What kind of existence was a saint alchemist who could refine a peerless grade variant? That was a miracle of the divine martial continent. There had never been a peerless grade pill in the divine martial continent. Moreover, this pill was a peerless grade variant.
With the inheritance, the help of a saint alchemist, and his cultivation at the 9th heaven, he would have an even greater chance of becoming a martial god.
Remember my name, Li Lingtian.
Li Lingtian did not answer, but his face revealed a faint pride. Even without an answer, the two of them could tell that Li Lingtian was definitely not an ordinary holy alchemist.
Otherwise, even the woman in white would have let him go.
It seemed that this young man was not simple.
Moreover, from Li Lingshan's expression, he did not even care about being addressed as a holy alchemist. Even if it was an ordinary alchemy saint master, they were also an expert of the Alchemy Master Guild. Who would dare to provoke the Alchemy Master Guild? Even an empire would not dare to provoke them. I am willing to submit. I am willing to submit. The two of them considered for a moment. At this time, the situation was forcing them, and there was also a huge temptation. If he did not agree, he would die. If he agreed, not only would he not die, but he would also obtain endless benefits. Besides, if it were not for Li Lingtian, they would have perished and would not have had the chance to come out. The lady did not kill them earlier mostly because of Li Lingtian. If a martial god were to kill you, even if you ran to the ends of the earth, you would still be wiped out. If they followed Li Lingtian the most, the martial god would definitely kill them if he knew about it. Li Lingtian glanced at the two of them indifferently. With a wave of his hand, an aura was directed at the two of them. The two of them dodged instinctively, but the aura was like a shadow that descended upon them. They didn't feel anything at all, but there was an additional trace of aura on their bodies. Moreover, this trace of aura had even entered their divine senses. After Li Lingtian was done, he activated his divine consciousness and summoned the silver-winged flying dragon. He sat on the silver-winged flying dragon and looked at the two of them. Yun Aotan and Tian Qingzi also quickly flew up. The silver-winged flying dragon brought the three of them and flew quickly. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the world. Li Lingtian kept searching inside and finally found a familiar place. It was the place where he had rested last time, and the array formation was still intact. After landing, he let the two of them cultivate and regulate their breathing alone. He also needed to recuperate and stabilize his injuries. This time, his injuries were too serious, and he could not delay his healing. Otherwise, the after-effects would not be good for his cultivation. Li Lingtian called Tang Qingyue and the others out as soon as they entered the array. Tang Qingyue and the others were also severely injured. They had been injured after using the 5 elements reincarnation and the 9 heaven stars. They had not been able to recuperate. Now that he had left the divine martial hall, he naturally had to stabilize his injuries first. He would recover after returning to Liberty Sacred City. Moreover, there was one more thing that he had already sized up. Although they had left the divine martial hall, they did not leave the destructive cyclone. The aura in the destructive cyclone was the best way to heal. He wanted to take away this destructive aura so that he could use it to cultivate. Lingtian, what is this place? Have you left the divine martial hall? After Tang Qingyue and the others came out, they looked around. This place did not look like a hall, but a cave. Moreover, this cave was very familiar, so they asked. We have already left the divine martial hall. This cave is where we rested last time. Li Lingtian nodded. As long as he left the divine martial hall, he would feel a little more relaxed. After all, a place like the divine martial hall was a place where one would most likely die. Moreover, if they encountered the war god, they would definitely die. If he left now, he would naturally survive the disaster. I finally left the divine martial hall. I need to train properly. This is my first time getting injured.
I didn't expect a martial god expert to be so powerful. All right, where's that woman in white and the two martial saints? Upon hearing that Li Lingtian had left the divine martial hall, they felt relieved. Huang Fu Yuyan thought of the girl in white and the two martial saints and asked. When she asked Li Lingtian, the other girls were also looking at him. Furthermore, Tianxin was there. Even if they didn't know who Tianxin was, they probably just came out when they saw him. This was because the descendants of the Tianmu golden flame had a golden flame between their eyebrows. Huang Fu Yuyan was from the divine continent, so she naturally knew the characteristics of the Tian family. That girl left. I let Tianxin off. Yun Aotian and Tian Chengzi have submitted. However, that girl in white left this behind. She left behind a message about the heavenly spiritual pearl. Li Lingtian recalled the long sword that the lady in white gave him before she left. He casually picked it up and handed it to Huang Fu Yuyan. There was disappointment and anticipation on his face. Because the heavenly spiritual pearl was related to Yun Yao Yao. The last time he was in the Azure continent, when he returned to the Maple Leaf Manor, the Maple Leaf Manor had already vanished. Moreover, he was attacked by an expert and obtained news of the heavenly spiritual pearl. This heavenly spiritual pearl was somehow related to Yun Yao Yao. The girl in white seemed to know about Yun Yao Yao and her existence. Moreover, Yun Yao Yao hadn't been killed yet, but she was in the hands of the girl in white. At the very least, it had something to do with her. As for this long sword, he had never been in the mood to look at it, nor did he know what was so special about it. Heaven Heart doesn't have any enmity with us, so there's naturally no need to. Her identity is not simple, so you did the right thing. At least you let her off twice. Heavenly spiritual pearl? That girl in white knows about the heavenly spiritual pearl. It seems like her identity is not simple. It seems that we are really in trouble. This heavenly spiritual pearl is related to elder sister Yao Yao. When the time comes, we'll be able to find elder sister Yao Yao. Huang Fu Yuyan took the sword and the girls started discussing. Naturally, they knew about Li Lingtian and Yun Yao Yao. Shun Mei was very familiar with this matter, because the two of them had been at odds with each other many times. Even though she was a little headstrong back then, she was fine now. She did not hold any grudges against Li Lingtian since they were both people he liked. Instead, he was worried for Yun Yao Yao. If he could not find her, Li Lingtian would always have a knot in his heart. Chapter 726. Heavenly Sword. 1. Tang Qingyue and the others discussed among themselves, but Huang Fu Yuyan's expression changed. Li Lingtian was puzzled when he saw the change in Huang Fu Yuyan's expression. Heavenly Sword. How is that possible? How is that possible? Huang Fu Yuyan's expression changed several times before a hint of unease flashed across her eyes. Huang Fu Yuyan's expression and exclamation shocked and confused everyone. In their opinion, Huang Fu Yuyan was the most mature and experienced one among them. She was also the most knowledgeable and experienced. Li Lingtian would always consider her words seriously. This was the first time he had cried out in shock. They all knew that Huang Fu Yuyan's long sword must have an extraordinary origin and was very terrifying. Otherwise, she wouldn't have such an expression. Yuyan, what's wrong? Li Lingtian stood up and took the long sword from Huang Fu Yuyan's hand. He was extremely shocked when he saw that Huang Fu Yuyan's hand was still trembling. Tang Qingyue, Shun Mei and the others looked at Huang Fu Yuyan with concern. This is the divine continent's heavenly sword, a supreme saint weapon. It's the same as your heavenly fault sword and the sky sword. It's also a set, one of the 5 sacred weapons. However, this heavenly sword has always been suppressed in the divine continent. The experts of the 10 great families and the 10 great forces have joined forces to suppress it. I didn't expect the heavenly sword to appear in this place. Huang Fu Yuyan's face was still filled with shock. Even though she had calmed down a little, she was still trembling slightly when she looked at the long sword in Li Lingtian's hand. It was as if he had seen a ghost. Sister Yuyan, isn't this one heavenly sword together with the Sky Universe sword? Could it be that there are other meanings behind it? Tang Ziming looked at Huang Fu Yuyan. Li Lingtian had obtained the Tianyu sword at Tianyu Peak and had witnessed it with his own eyes. Furthermore, Li Lingtian had relied on the Tianyu sword to defeat countless powerhouses. Now that Huangfu Yuyan was so shocked after seeing the heavenly sword, one of the 5 great saint weapons, she must be curious and confused. It's rumored that there are 5 supreme saint weapons in the divine martial continent. This was originally a legend. Because this is all recorded in ancient books. Very few people know about it. Only those super families and experts above the martial saint realm have the chance to know. However, as time passed, this legend has gradually been forgotten. In the divine martial continent, there are countless saint weapons and quite a few divine weapons. However, there are only 5 supreme saint weapons. Moreover, these 5 supreme saint weapons come together as a set of weapons. When the 5 heavenly swords are combined, their power will be enough to destroy the heavens and earth. They can destroy any divine weapon. The sky sword is the beginning. In the middle, there is the heavenly fault sword, the heavenly extreme sword, the heavenly one sword, and behind it there is the heavenly sun sword. The appearance of the heavenly sword indicates that the world will be in chaos. Therefore, the heavenly sword has always been suppressed by the combined forces of the divine continent's super experts. I don't know why it appeared here. Now that it's in your hands, it also indicates that the divine continent will be in chaos. Huangfu Yuyan said seriously, revealing everything she knew. She had also read about it from the ancient books of her family. Otherwise, she would not have known about these things. Li Lingtian and the others were shocked when they heard that. They did not expect a supreme saint weapon to have so many things. It seemed that it was not as simple as it seemed. This heavenly sword was given to you by that woman in white. She should know a lot of things. That white-robed woman's cultivation base is unfathomable, and her identity is extremely mysterious. It seems like this is fate. Li Lingtian looked at the heavenly sword in his hand with a serious expression. At first, he didn't pay attention to this long sword. There was no aura on it. It didn't seem that this long sword without aura was the heavenly sword. As he sized up Tian Yijian, he spoke indifferently. In his line of sight, this heavenly sword was 3 feet long. There was no aura on it at all, just like an ordinary long sword without any spirituality. But now that he looked at it carefully, there was a mysterious symbol carved on the hilt of the sword. Even if he was a super holy array master, he would not be able to recognize the symbol on the heavenly sword in a short period of time. He thought to himself that since he had already obtained the Tianyu sword and the heavenly fault sword, it was also the will of the heavens that he had obtained the heavenly sword. Since the war had already begun, there was no need to care about these things. As long as he looked at the super experts of the Black Continent and the 3 empires, he would be able to defeat them. More importantly, there was also the appearance of martial god realm experts in the Xian continent. This was the most important thing. Big Brother is right. Since you have already obtained it, you can't escape even if you want to. Let's take it one step at a time. We're going to have a great battle anyway, so we don't have to worry about this. Even if the heavenly sword doesn't come out, the great battle has already begun. Ji looked at Li Lingtian and came to his side. He tugged at Li Lingshan's sleeve and whispered. In her eyes, Li Lingtian was the only one she had. He was the one she could rely on. Li Lingtian was closer to her than her biological parents. This was because Li Lingtian had taught her everything and protected her at all times. That's right, husband. Since this Tian Yijian has appeared, well, just treat it as an additional supreme saint weapon. Shen Mei also encouraged him, her beautiful face revealing a charming expression. The other girls also encouraged Li Lingtian. Huangfu Yuyan was the same. Since the heavenly sword had appeared, it would definitely cause a great war in the divine martial continent no matter who it was. Now that the war was going on in the Black Continent, it would be the same in the divine continent. That's the only way. I still want to fuse the 5 super supreme saint weapons and see how powerful they are. Now that I've obtained 3, I can save myself some effort. Why not? Li Lingtian said with a smile. He then instructed Tang Qingyue and the rest to recuperate. He also wanted to recuperate. In the God's Fall mountain range, the divine martial hall had already left. Even if he cultivated and recuperated in this place, he would not worry about anything. Moreover, There were 2 super martial saints guarding outside. It was considered very safe. Soon after, Li Lingtian began to treat his injuries. The aura in this place was suitable for healing. If he went back, it would definitely not be so easy to recover from his injuries. Healing in the palace was healing, and healing here was also healing. This place had a mysterious aura, and healing was twice as effective. The injury this time was more serious than any other time. The others did not suffer much, but they had already been injured after the battle with the 9 prodigy. Later on, he was restored by the joint efforts of 6 martial saints. That attack almost killed him. If it was any other powerhouse, they would have long disappeared. To be able to survive, it was completely relying on countless methods, wisdom, and luck. His injuries were already at their peak, and after fighting with a martial god, the extent of his injuries was unimaginable. Fortunately, when he used the heavenly sword physique in the end, he obtained a mysterious aura, and the injuries in his body inexplicably stabilized a lot. Although Tang Qingyue and the others were not as badly injured as she was, it was the first time they had suffered such injuries. It was not easy for them to recover. After Li Lingtian made some arrangements, the 7 of them began dual cultivation to heal their injuries. By sharing the true essence, the healing speed was extremely fast. But even so, it still took half a month. In half a month, his injuries were finally fully recovered. Li Lingshan's realm was still at the peak of the 9th firmament martial emperor realm, but Tang Qingyue and the rest had made a breakthrough and reached the 9th firmament martial honored realm. This was also a blessing in disguise. The 4 of them had reached the 9th heaven martial honored realm. Qing Ling was still at the 2nd heaven martial emperor realm. With Ying Ying's cultivation base, she could only achieve a breakthrough after Li Lingshan's breakthrough. Hence, she was still at the 9th heaven martial emperor realm. Li Lingtian and the rest were ready to return to Liberty Sacred City after their injuries were fully healed. After all, they had left Liberty Sacred City for some time. If anything happened, the Liberty dynasty would be finished. Lingtian, are we returning to Liberty Saint City today? Tang Genji opened her eyes and looked at Li Lingtian with gentleness. Yes, this God's Fall mountain range is no longer useful after the Divine Martial Hall is destroyed. At that time, there might be endless demonic beasts appearing. We should leave this troublesome place first. Moreover, I'll think of a way to break the cyclone in the God's Fall mountain range and bring it back to cultivate slowly. If I can refine the destructive aura of this cyclone for my own use, my cultivation strength will increase by a large margin. Li Lingtian nodded and told her his plan. This mysterious destructive aura was a terrifying thing of destruction and erosion to other experts, but to him, it was a treasure. Not bad. You're not afraid of this mysterious aura at all, and it's even helpful to you. This is the aura of the Divine Martial Profound Heaven Sword. When the time comes, you can put this cyclone into the Divine Dragon Ring and cultivate slowly. By then, you will be able to control the destruction chi, and its power will be even more terrifying. Besides, our cultivation is not worth mentioning at all. The only thing we can do is rely on methods, treasures, and various divine powers. Huangfu Yuyan nodded in agreement with Li Lingshan's idea. Then let's go, lest any accidents happen. With a faint smile on his face, Li Lingtian called Tang Qingyue and the others into the Divine Dragon Ring. He walked out of the cave alone and saw that Yunneotan and Tian Qingzi had already recovered. He nodded in satisfaction. Long Da was also cultivating at the side. Li Lingtian had already told the 2 of them to listen to Long Da's arrangements. Both of them were not convinced by Long Da's cultivation base. However, they thought that Long Da was someone whom Li Lingtian trusted since he was able to become Li Lingshan's trusted aide. Moreover, they were both shocked and afraid of a person like Li Lingtian. They were even a little dissatisfied. However, this slight unwillingness was quickly suppressed by Li Lingshan's identity. A super-divine alchemist was also a heaven-defying powerhouse. Regardless of which aspect it was, Li Lingtian was no ordinary favored son of heaven. Following Li Lingtian in the future could be considered a gamble. P.S. I recommend this to my good friend. It's the masterpiece of the Han Dynasty, The Best Little Farmer. It's super good. Friends who update it can go and take a look. Chapter 727. Destruction Cyclone Young Master. Long Da, Yuneoten, and Tian Qingzi greeted Li Lingtian respectfully when they saw him. The matter with the Divine Martial Hall has been settled. Let's go out first. Li Lingtian nodded and summoned the silver-winged flying dragon. He sat on the silver-winged flying dragon and meditated to rest. With a silver-winged flying dragon that was a 5th or 6th heaven martial saint, Long Da and 2 9th heaven martial saint monsters who had inherited their heritage, he could easily take care of any powerful opponent. The prerequisite was that the martial god was an exception. If they encountered a martial god, they could only resist for a while. He was meditating and resting on the silver-winged flying dragon with a relaxed expression on his face. Although this was still the depths of the God's Fall mountain range, the Divine Martial Hall was no longer here. Furthermore, countless superpower houses had already fallen when they reached the Divine Martial Hall. It was naturally much easier to return. Yun Aotan and Tian Qingzi could only admire Li Lingshan's behavior. To be able to do this, it was definitely not something that a martial monarch realm expert could achieve. However, the master in front of them was a martial emperor powerhouse. A martial emperor was enough to make them submit willingly. Along the way, there were 2 martial saints, Long Da, and the silver-winged flying dragon. No one dared to provoke them. Not to mention provoking them, some experts and demon beasts avoided them when they sensed the powerful aura. After half a day, they finally arrived in front of the destructive cyclone. Before entering, the cyclone could be seen from the outside, but it could not be seen from inside. Now that the Divine Martial Hall had disappeared, the cyclone had appeared. Li Lingtian stopped in front of the cyclone. They did not know how big this cyclone was because they had flown inside for half a day. In other words, this cyclone was tens of millions of miles wide. This was only a conservative estimate, because he was not sure that the place he was flying was the center. He didn't think too much about it. Since he was already here, he didn't care about a little time. With a wave of his hand, Long Da and the other 2 stopped. All of you protect me. I will take this destruction cyclone away. In a flash, Li Lingtian left the silver-winged flying dragon. At the same time, he called out the ice and fire exotic beasts. With these guys protecting them, even if a martial saint super expert came, they would only be able to flee at the sight of them. Young master, you want to take this destruction cyclone away? When Yuneoten and Tian Qingzi heard Li Lingshan's words, their eyes were filled with shock as if they had seen a ghost. This destructive cyclone was even more terrifying than the destructive aura. Even if he was at the 9th heavenly layer of the martial saint realm, he would be corroded and destroyed by this cyclone if he was not careful. Li Lingtian had actually said that he would take away such a huge destruction cyclone. Moreover, he had spoken in a casual tone as if he was doing something very normal. The 2 of them had not been with Li Lingtian for a few days, so naturally, they were unaware of Li Lingshan's heaven-defying methods. Naturally, they were shocked. They could dodge the power of the destructive cyclone, but they didn't even dare to imagine destroying it, let alone taking it away. Just protect him. Although this destructive cyclone is extremely powerful, if I can subdue it and use it for cultivation or refine it as a pressure, it will definitely be a destructive weapon. Li Lingtian turned around and glared at the 2 men with a murderous look. Instantly, the 2 of them felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. They knew that Li Lingshan's killing intent had already appeared and were extremely afraid. Fortunately, the killing intent in Li Lingshan's eyes slowly disappeared. In the end, he became calm and said indifferently. The 2 of them breathed a sigh of relief when the murderous intent vanished. At the same time, they understood that Li Lingshan's words were unquestionable. Yun Aotan and Tian Qingzi were shocked when they heard Li Lingshan's words. However, Li Lingshan's tone was extremely relaxed. Looking at the destructive cyclone in front of him, his heart trembled. If he used this destructive cyclone, he did not know how heaven-defying its power would be. Following that, Li Lingtian levitated and allowed Long Da and the others to stand guard for him. With a few people protecting him, he could naturally deal with this mysterious destruction cyclone in peace. Yun Aotian, Tian Qingzi, Long Da, ice and fire exotic beasts, and silver-winged flying dragons. If anyone came, they would be killed. Li Lingtian cast a series of magic arts in the air. The magic art struck the destructive cyclone like a stone thrown into a lake. After trying a few times, it was useless. Seeing this situation, his face revealed a solemn expression. This destructive cyclone was even more terrifying than he had imagined. The shocking destruction cyclone was like a natural moat. There was no way to start at all. Divine Array Diagram. After a while, Li Lingtian began to size up the place with his divine consciousness. His expression was much calmer than before. With a flick of his divine consciousness, a stream of light appeared between his brows. Immediately after, a golden light appeared, and a formation map appeared in front of him. The formation diagram emitted a faint golden light. Within the golden light, mysterious runes flickered. When Yun Aotan and Tian Qingzi saw the divine array diagram in front of Li Lingtian, they were immediately shocked. Although they were not array masters, as ninth heavenly layer martial saints, they naturally understood the power of array Dao. They had also seen how some super array masters executed arrays. From the ancient books, he knew that the thing in front of Li Lingtian was the array diagram. In that case, could Li Lingtian be a powerful array master? They found it hard to accept Li Lingshan's heaven-defying cultivation base alone. They did not expect Li Lingtian to be a super divine alchemist and now an array master. It seemed like he was not an ordinary one. She was shocked as she looked at Li Lingtian. What kind of existence was this? However, none of them dared to make a sound in case they disturbed Li Lingshan's array formation. Whoosh! Whoosh! His fingers were like butterflies flipping flowers as he continuously cast spells. After 10 minutes, Li Lingshan's face was covered in sweat, but he was smiling. Activate! It was at this moment that Li Lingtian cast the last spell and tapped it on the divine array diagram. Suddenly, the divine array diagram trembled and a golden beam of light shot towards the destructive cyclone. Boom! With a shocking explosion, the ground began to collapse and the space shattered inch by inch. Yun Aotan and the others quickly used their protective shields to protect themselves. She looked at Li Lingtian and saw that he was not in any danger. Instead, he quickly pointed out a spell. Take it! Li Lingshan's face lit up with excitement when he saw the golden radiance and the destructive cyclone coming to a standstill. This was because this light pillar had already destroyed the destruction cyclone and created a gap. As long as this gap appeared, he would use this gap to absorb the destruction chi. As soon as he finished speaking, a simple radiance appeared on his finger with one hand and one body. As the radiance appeared, Li Lingshan's aura changed instantly. It became ethereal and mysterious. The terrifying dragon energy protected his body. A powerful force was released from the divine dragon ring, and this force surged directly towards the golden light pillar. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the space, the destruction cyclone trembled continuously. The destruction energy was being absorbed by the divine dragon ring in Li Lingshan's hand. Li Lingshan's eyes turned serious as well. This was because the destruction cyclone was far beyond his imagination. It was not just a little bit. This cyclone was like a sea, entering the divine dragon ring endlessly. Li Lingshan's expression turned increasingly ugly. His face turned pale. He had to stabilize the formation, resist the destructive aura, and control the divine dragon ring at the same time. He was multitasking. Moreover, the destruction cyclone was constantly being absorbed and destroyed. This cyclone also began to tremble and shatter. The destructive aura of the destruction cyclone was extremely terrifying. If he was not careful, he would be destroyed. However, he couldn't stop even if he wanted to. The destructive cyclone kept entering the divine dragon ring. At that moment, Li Lingshan's expression hardened. He put away the divine array diagram and ignored the destructive cyclone. He focused on controlling the divine dragon ring. Because his wife was still in the divine dragon ring, he couldn't act recklessly. Even if he destroyed it, he couldn't destroy the divine dragon ring. Be careful. After making his decision, he did not forget to remind Long Da and the others who were standing in the distance. After saying that, he no longer had the slightest bit of distraction and wholeheartedly absorbed the destruction chi. Seconds passed. After an unknown period of time, the destructive cyclone completely disappeared. The entire God's Fall mountain range within 1,000,000 miles was empty. Long Da and the others had completely disappeared. There was no longer any trace of their aura. Li Lingtian opened his eyes as blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face looked a little better. Just now, at the end, the divine dragon ring kept absorbing the destruction cyclone, but the destruction cyclone suddenly exploded. Li Lingtian could only protect himself while the divine dragon ring continued to absorb without stopping. After an unknown period of time, the destructive aura completely disappeared. Boom! At this moment, the ground shook and an explosion sounded. A halo soared into the sky. Inside the halo, Long Da, Tian Qingzi, Yunfeng, the ice and fire exotic beasts, and the silver-winged flying dragon were all inside. However, these guys were not in good spirits and looked extremely ugly. However, it was not easy for them to escape from the explosion of the destruction cyclone. A comforting smile appeared on Li Lingshan's face. "Young master, are you all right?" Long Da asked Li Lingtian after the halo disappeared. "I'm fine." Li Lingtian nodded. This injury was nothing. Moreover, after obtaining so many destruction cyclones, even if he was injured, it was nothing. After that, they took a short rest and left quickly. It was unknown how big the destruction cyclone was, but after the destruction cyclone was destroyed, the entire Godsfall mountain range was destroyed for 1,000,000 miles. Furthermore, the destruction was deep in the center of the Godsfall mountain range. In other words, this Godsfall mountain range was destroyed and was no longer useful. P.S. I recommend a new book, The Drunken Dragon of the Three Kingdoms. Those who like history should take a look. Chapter 728. Great Shang Kingdom. The destruction of the Godsfall mountain range shook the entire Mystic Moon Empire. Because the Godsfall mountain range was the location of the Divine Martial Hall. The Divine Martial Hall was one of the most mysterious places in the Divine Martial Continent. Not many people knew about it in the past. But after the Godsfall mountain range was destroyed, the matter of the Divine Martial Hall also became the hottest topic in the world. There were countless demonic beasts in the Godsfall mountain range. There were countless mysterious auras. Even experts did not dare to enter. However, a while ago, there were countless super experts who entered the Godsfall mountain range. This was no longer a secret. In the end, the Godsfall mountain range was destroyed, and it ignited the discussions in the Mystic Moon Empire. Moreover, the armies of the Mystic Moon Empire and the North Jin Kingdom had been mobilized frequently. The incident between the Mystic Moon Empire and the North Jin Kingdom was no longer a secret. Everyone knew that the Mystic Moon Empire and the North Jin Kingdom were not on good terms with each other. The Mystic Moon Empire didn't completely control the North Jin Kingdom. The North Jin Kingdom wanted to attack the Mystic Moon Empire and become the North Jin Empire. However, there was the powerful Godsfall mountain range between the two countries. The Godsfall mountain range became the natural moat between the two countries. Now, the Divine Martial Hall in the Godsfall mountain range had opened. Not only had it opened, but it had also been destroyed. The entire Godsfall mountain range had been destroyed. Naturally, there were no more obstacles. This guy killed someone. At the edge of the Godsfall mountain range, the white-robed woman said in a low voice as she felt the destructive aura soar into the sky. She then quickly flew away with a palace maid. The Godsfall mountain range has been destroyed. This is God's will. The glory of the North Jin Kingdom has arrived. Lai Wuxia looked at the situation inside a crystal. Seeing the destruction of the Godsfall mountain range, he became excited. In an instant, countless supreme experts and countless kingdoms began to reorganize. The destruction of the Godsfall mountain range became the prelude to the war in the Mystic Moon Empire. The depths of the Godsfall mountain range were destroyed, but the outside was not destroyed. This also made this place a paradise for countless martial artists to train. Moreover, when it was destroyed, countless demon beasts were instantly killed, leaving behind countless inner cores and materials. Immediately, countless experts and families headed to the mountain range to search for treasures. All of this was caused by Li Lingshan's absorption of the destruction energy. When all the powerhouses had entered the mountain range, Li Lingtian led Long Da and the other two out of the mountain range and flew toward the Carefree Dynasty. After leaving the northern Jin Kingdom, he took out his flying boat. Long Da, Yun Outyen, and Tian Qingzi guarded the flying boat. Li Lingtian, Tang Qingyue, and the rest were resting in the spaceship. This time, the trip to the Divine Martial Hall was considered complete. Although they encountered countless dangers along the way, they finally came out safely. There was no such thing as a free lunch. Opportunity and danger were proportional. Riches and riches are sought in danger. This was what he meant. Without danger, there would be no good treasures or wealth. The thing that pleased Li Lingtian the most was the news about Yun Yaoyao. Although it was only a clue, it was at least a glimmer of hope. With hope there was a goal. He secretly decided that he had to unify the entire Mystic Moon Empire, find that woman in white, and find Yun Yaoyao. He had obtained 2 9th Heavenly Layer Martial Saint experts as helpers and the storage bags of some experts. Jingling had also received the inheritance. As long as she cultivated hard, she would be able to have higher achievements. As for the Divine Martial Black Heaven Sword and the Heavenly Sword, Li Lingtian did not have the time to care about them. He was trying to think of a way to break through now. The cultivation of a 9th level Martial Monarch Realm expert was still too low. Only when he reached the Martial Saint realm would he be able to unleash the power of some almighty divine powers. On the flying ship, most of the time was spent cultivating a few main cultivation techniques, or comprehending alchemy and array path. He was already a super Tier 7 alchemy saint now. Tier 7 medicinal pills could already be casually refined into peerless medicinal pills. However, he had reached the 9th level of the Martial Emperor realm now, and needed a grade 8 elixir to cultivate. Moreover, for many Martial Saint powerhouses, the 7th grade medicinal pill was already not very useful. If he could refine the 8th grade medicinal pill, not only could he rope in some super powerhouses, but he could also refine the 8th grade medicinal pill. His cultivation could also break through and become a Martial Saint. After becoming a Martial Saint, it would not be a problem for him to even face a 9th Firmament Martial Saint. As for facing the War God, he wasn't confident at all. He understood that the path of cultivation progressed from shallow to deep. The further one progressed, the harder it was to improve. Similarly, on the path of cultivation, one must not aim too high. Since he could easily obtain a grade 7 medicinal pill, he also had some confidence in a grade 8 medicinal pill. It was just that he did not even have a Tier 8 pill formula. He had to find a Tier 8 pill formula first. As the ruler of the Xiaoyao dynasty, he could easily make countless experts search for these things. After flying on the spaceship for a full month, they finally arrived at the Carefree dynasty. Yun Aotan and Tian Qinzi were shocked when they learned of Li Lingtian's identity. Experts with their status were basically cultivating in seclusion and did not care about what was going on outside. However, when he came out this time, he learned about the incident in Carefree dynasty and Moonsong Kingdom. Li Lingtian's matter was also widely spread. However, they did not expect Li Lingtian to be the ruler of the Carefree dynasty. A 4th Heaven Martial Emperor had actually unified a kingdom and built it into an iron bucket. The spaceship arrived at Liberty Sacred City. Li Lingtian put on some makeup before he entered the city alone and returned to the palace. As for Yun Aotian and Tian Qingzi, they were also brought to the palace by Long Da and became members of the War God Legion. With the addition of 2 9th Heavenly Layer Martial Saints, Long Da revealed a comforting smile. However, other than him, no one knew that Yun Aotan and the other man were 9th Heavenly Layer Martial Saints, because very few people knew where the two of them lived. Moreover, both of them were the inheritors of the Almighty from the Divine Martial Hall's upper realm. Their cultivation had already reached the peak of the 9th Heavenly Layer of the Martial Saint realm. At that time they might be able to break through to the Martial God realm. They could also become the strongest fighters in the Carefree dynasty. When the time came for the war, the two of them would be Li Lingtian's trump cards. After Li Lingtian returned to the imperial palace, he settled down and began cultivating earnestly. His cultivation had already reached the peak of the 9th Firmament Martial Emperor realm. It was impossible for him to improve any further. The only thing he could do was to cultivate his divine powers, cultivation techniques, comprehension of cultivation techniques, alchemy techniques, and array Dao. Nothing happened in the Carefree dynasty during Li Lingtian's absence. The name of the people, the shadow of the trees, the prestige of the Carefree dynasty, made the other 11 kingdoms not dare to easily provoke them. As long as the free and unfettered dynasty did not provoke the other kingdoms, The other kingdoms would naturally not provoke the free and unfettered dynasty. Although Li Lingtian was only a martial emperor, he was extremely terrifying and had become the most feared figure among the many supreme powerhouses. When Li Lingtian returned to the Holy City, he could not wait for a period of peace in the carefree dynasty. He could use this time to reorganize the dynasty's army. This way, they could consolidate the power of the Xiaoyao dynasty, lest they were defeated in a war. After arranging some things, he did not cultivate for long before news came from below. "Young master, we've found the Tier 8 pill formula, but it's not easy to get it." Long Da had sent news that he had found the Tier 8 pill formula, but with the strength of the carefree empire, it was impossible to obtain it. No matter how hard he tried, he could not obtain this Grade 8 pill formula. Even though it was only a pill formula, a Grade 8 pill formula was still a precious treasure. "What is the name of the pill recipe?" Li Lingtian looked at Long Da and furrowed his brows. It was strange that the carefree dynasty could not get their hands on a Tier 8 pill formula despite their influence. He wanted to know what kind of pill formula it was. If it was an ordinary 8th grade pill formula, he could give it up. After all, if the pill formula was not good, the pill refined would not be good either. Instead, it would be a waste of medicinal herbs. Tier 8 medicinal pills consumed heavenly and earthly treasures. He could not afford to waste them. There's news from below. It seems to be the spirit concentration pill. This pill formula is in the hands of the head of the Yunfeng Villa. The Yunfeng Villa is the #1 power in the Great Shang Kingdom. Even the royal family of the Great Shang Kingdom would not dare to offend the Yunfeng Villa. It's said that the Yun Peak Villa is the backing of the Great Shang Kingdom, where experts gather. General Long revealed the name and location of the pill recipe. Although the free and unfettered dynasty was not as powerful as the other kingdoms, it was still possible to inquire about it. After receiving this news, the experts below did not know what to do. After all, the other party's status and strength were too powerful. They could not afford to offend him, and they did not dare to offend him either. They did not want to bring trouble to the Xiaoyao dynasty. Therefore, the people below immediately sent the news to Long Da. Great Shang Kingdom. In this place, since the Cloud Peak Villa has such a powerful force, it is indeed worth being careful. Li Lingtian turned around and looked at the beast skin map in the hall. This map was compiled from the jade slips collected by countless powerhouses. This 10-meter-long and 3-meter-wide map was a rough map of the entire Shenzhou. All the countries and kingdoms were listed, and even the main families and forces were listed. This way, it would be extremely beneficial for the battle. He could see the other party's geographical location. The Great Shang Kingdom is separated from our carefree dynasty by the 100 Spirit Kingdom. Even if they send troops to attack our carefree dynasty, the chances are slim. Or they can send super experts to deal with our Xiaoyao Empire. Long Da also looked at the map and said indifferently. After that, he stood respectfully at the side and looked at Li Lingtian, awaiting his decision and instructions. "Bring Yun Aotian and Tian Qingzi with you and follow me to the Great Shang Kingdom. I'll personally go and see how powerful the Great Shang Kingdom is." Li Lingtian pondered for a moment. Since he had not made much progress in his cultivation, he could not let go of the coagulate spirit pills recipe since he had come across it. This spirit concentration pill formula was an 8th grade pill formula passed down from ancient times. Among the 8th grade pill formulas, it was definitely the best existence and also the most mysterious existence. If he could refine the congealing spirit pill, he would be able to condense the will and attributes of a martial emperor and break through to the martial saint realm. Martial saints would also have the chance to use this pill to break through to the martial god realm. However, this pill formula was hard to find. Even in the Black Continent, no one had ever refined the congealing spirit pill. The pill formula was a problem, and there was also the problem of pill refining techniques. Even if a saint pill master had the pill formula for the spirit concentration pill, they might not be able to refine it. Chapter 729. Yunfeng Villa. Just because others could not refine it did not mean that Li Lingtian could not. Li Lingtian controlled the Shunnong Cauldron, Heaven and Earth Creation Cauldron, ancient alchemy techniques, 5 elements sacred body, and 5 elements Tao will. These were the keys to creating a peerless pill. With the help of the pill tribulation thunder essence, he could refine a peerless pill. If he could refine an 8th grade pill, it would definitely shake the empire. A level 8 pill might not be much, but if a level 8 mutated peerless grade pill appeared, it would be difficult not to shake the empire. In terms of influence, Li Lingtian was inferior to the other kingdoms. In terms of cultivation base, Li Lingtian was inferior to other martial god powerhouses. In terms of wealth, Li Lingtian was not as wealthy as the empire and superclans. The only thing that Li Lingtian could use was his advantage, which could not be replicated by others. Alchemy skills, heaven-defying alchemy skills, heaven-defying array Dao. These were all his advantages. With heaven-defying advantages, he could achieve supreme cultivation and strength, gather a heaven-defying and huge force, and unify the empire. Now, a grade 8 spirit concentration pill formula had appeared. He naturally would not let it go. To others, this grade 8 pill formula was nothing, because no one could find the medicinal ingredients, let alone refine it. For Li Lingtian, this was an opportunity, a heaven-defying opportunity. It was also a huge gain. If he obtained a grade 8 pill formula, he would have the chance to refine a grade 8 pill and break through the martial supreme realm to become a martial saint. This subordinate will go now. Young master, when are you leaving? When Long Da heard that Li Lingtian was going there personally, he did not want Li Lingtian to take the risk. However, Li Lingtian was the strongest in Liberty Sacred City. In terms of cultivation base, Li Lingtian was not as strong as the 2 9th Firmament Martial Saints. However, when it came to actual combat, Li Lingshan's methods were not something a martial saint could compare to. He also understood the importance of a Tier 8 pill formula. It was very important to Li Lingtian and he could not afford to make any mistakes. Bring the two of them and wait in the Great Shang Kingdom. When the time comes, I will head directly to the Yun Peak Villa. Li Lingtian said. He did not want to follow them as that would inevitably attract attention. It would be safer for him to move alone. Since the Yun Peak Villa had the backing of the Great Shang Kingdom, it definitely wasn't that simple. He had to figure out the details of the Yunfeng Villa before taking action. He wasn't afraid of the Great Shang Kingdom. With his strength, he naturally wouldn't be afraid of dealing with an entire kingdom. However, he was worried that something might go wrong with the pill formula. If the pill formula disappeared, it would be considered a failure. He did not want to waste his time on it. This subordinate will bring Yun Aotian and Tian Qingzi to the Great Shang Kingdom. Oh right, young master, Tian Qingzi is a super expert of the Great Shang Kingdom. Will he remember us? Long Da nodded. He knew Li Lingshan's personality and style of handling matters. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly stopped, and his expression was serious. As a commander, he should not have been suspicious. However, since these things would threaten Li Lingshan's safety, he would not hide anything from Li Lingtian and spoke directly. Tian Qingzi is from the Great Shang Kingdom? Li Lingtian was taken aback. He seldom cared about such matters. However, Long Da's words did make him somewhat worried. He could not have the heart to harm others, but he could not be without the heart to guard against others. One had to know that such an expert was definitely a heaven-defying existence in a kingdom. Moreover, his status was also extremely transcendent. It would be inconvenient to bring Tian Qingzi to Great Shang now. That's right, Tian Qingzi is a rogue cultivator of Great Shang. Although he is a rogue cultivator, he is still an expert of Great Shang. Long Da nodded and looked at Li Lingtian seriously, waiting for his decision. If it was any other time, he wouldn't have the slightest worry if he brought them to attack other kingdoms. However, this time, he was going to deal with Great Shang. It was inevitable that this would be a bad idea. Therefore, he told Li Lingtian about this beforehand. Go and tell him that my target is the Yun Peak Villa. Ask him if he is willing to go. If he is not willing, I will not make things difficult for him. After all, Great Shang is his country. Li Lingtian muttered to himself for a moment before he spoke to Long Da. After saying that, he waved his hand and signaled Long Da to leave. After Long Da left, Li Lingtian returned to the depths of the palace. Young master, what's the matter? When Qjng Ling saw Li Lingtian, she walked up to him. We already know the whereabouts of the Tier 8 pill recipe. However, It's a little troublesome to deal with in the hands of great Shang. Li Lingtian did not hide anything. Although Qjng Ling was his maid in the past, she was his closest servant. Gradually, their relationship grew deeper and Qjng Ling was now Li Lingshan's wife. In the hands of the Great Shang Kingdom, could it be the royal family of the Great Shang Kingdom? Qjng Ling was puzzled. These things were not difficult for Li Lingtian in the Great Shang Kingdom. The people below could use all sorts of methods to get the pill formula back. If the people below couldn't get it, then the pill formula must be in the palace. Even though it's not the royal family of the Great Shang Kingdom, it's about the same. Moreover, it might be even more difficult to obtain the pill formula than the royal family. This pill formula is in the Yun Peak Villa, the backing of the Yun Peak Villa's Great Shang Kingdom. They are extremely powerful and have many experts. Li Lingshan's expression was calm as he led Qjng Ling to the garden in the palace and sat down in the pavilion. He slowly revealed the whereabouts of the pill formula. At this time, Tang Genji and the others also came over. The Yunfeng Villa is indeed not simple in the Great Shang Kingdom. It is the main family of the Great Shang Kingdom and the current king of the Great Shang Kingdom is from the Yunfeng Villa. Shun Mei came to Li Lingshan's side and told him about the general situation at Yunfeng Villa. When they were bored, they would read the ancient books of the Xian continent and the divine martial continent, memorizing some of the major forces and some strange records. This was because they knew that Li Lingshan's future path was becoming increasingly difficult. As they encountered more and more strange incidents, they learned as much as they could. This would be of great help to Li Lingtian. Now, Tang Genji and the others had a good understanding of the divine martial continent. Huangfu Yuyan knew about the divine continent, and Shun Mei knew about some things in the black continent. Tang Ziming and Jingling were helpful in Li Lingshan's pill refinement. Tang Genji was well organized in the outside world. She was the one who handled most of the matters when Li Lingtian was cultivating. Although she was cold and an icy beauty, she was calm and wise. She was good at dealing with some things. It's said that there are a few ninth firmament martial saint elders in the Yunfeng Villa. However, I don't know what level their cultivation has reached since they are in seclusion. That's what I'm worried about. When Li Lingtian saw Shun Mei and the others coming to his side, he voiced out his worries. Lingtian, what are your plans? Tang Genji knew that even if Li Lingtian was worried about Yunfeng Villa, he would not stop there. This was because such a pill formula was very important to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian would get his hands on anything that caught his eye. He would never retreat because of the difficulties ahead. I sent Long Da, Yuneoten, and Tian Chengzib. Tomorrow, we will head to the Great Shang Kingdom. It would be best if there is another way to obtain the pill formula. If there is really no other way, we can only act. Even if the other party has a few ninth heavenly layer martial saints, we still have a chance. Li Lingtian voiced out his plan. No matter how powerful the opponent's ninth firmament martial saint was, it was impossible for him to be stronger than a martial god. As long as it wasn't the war god, he wouldn't be afraid. The other party was at the ninth heavenly layer of the martial saint realm, and had been in seclusion for countless years. How could it be so easy for him to break through to the martial god realm? Thus, he was not worried about the martial god appearing in the Great Shang Kingdom. That's not bad. With the 5 elements reincarnation and the 9 heaven stars, we're confident that we can kill even a 9th heavenly layer martial saint. How are your heavenly sword and divine martial black heaven sword? Huangfu Yuyan said calmly as she leaned against Li Lingtian. Although he knew that Li Lingtian spent most of his time comprehending alchemy and cultivation techniques, he would not be idle when it came to these 2 treasures. I can't control the divine martial black heavenly sword, but I've already subdued and refined it. The power of the first heavenly sword is similar to that of the Tianyu sword. However, when the first heavenly sword, the Tianyu sword, and the heavenly fault sword are used together, the power can be increased by quite a bit. Li Lingtian said earnestly. He had indeed refined 2 treasures during this period of time, but he could not unleash their full potential. However, his other divine powers had almost reached the perfection of martial arts. In particular, the Heaven Sword Unity and Nirvana Wind Cloud Break had already been cultivated to the extreme, and they were at his fingertips. With the 5 elements will and the 5 elements sacred body, it would be of endless help on the path of cultivation. The only thing that made him afraid was the destruction cyclone. It was all in the divine dragon ring, and it almost filled up the dragon energy of an entire world. Fortunately, Li Lingtian had absorbed all the dragon energy in this place, and the destruction cyclone was stored in the divine dragon ring. With his current cultivation, he could not refine it or cultivate inside. The density of the cyclone was not something that the aura in the divine martial hall could compare to. I hope Brother Ling Tian will be able to break through to the martial saint realm after refining the pill formula. At that time, Brother Ling Tian's cultivation will reach another level. Shenyuan Yingying also spoke. The main reason was that this realm could not be broken through just like that. Li Lingshan's strength and methods were both heaven-defying. However, he was limited by his realm. If he could break through, his strength would naturally reach another level. Yeah, it's just that this realm can't be broken through. If I reach the martial saint realm, I won't be a threat to martial saints anymore. Even if I face martial gods, I'll have a chance to escape. A bitter smile appeared on Li Lingshan's face. He could defy the heavens, but he could not simply break through this realm. If he could break through to the martial saint realm, he would dare to attack all the kingdoms and unify them. However, when he thought about how he had only spent 10 years to reach a level that other experts could only look up to, he felt a trace of relief. Chapter 730. Fusing Heavenly Sword. 1. Go and prepare. This time, only Qingping and Shang will stay in the palace. I'll bring Yingying and the rest with me. We'll have a helper when the time comes. Li Lingtian told Tang Qingyue and the others after he made his decision. Although the divine dragon ring allowed him to bring as many people as he wanted, he still had to leave some people in the palace. Otherwise, others would think that they had left. Qingping, Xiao Xiao, and Lu Min stayed in the palace. Others would see them from time to time, so they naturally wouldn't suspect anything. This was a critical period of time, and no mistakes could be made. If he went to the great Shang kingdom to obtain the pill formula, the carefree empire would be gone by the time he returned. That would be a wasted trip. Yes. Qingping and the others nodded. Although they wanted to go with Li Lingtian, they would carry out Li Lingshan's orders without hesitation. Besides, they wouldn't be able to help much even if they went. Instead, they would be a burden. Following that, Huangfu Yuyan and Tang Qingyue began to prepare. They adjusted their cultivation and waited to leave the imperial palace for Great Shang. At the same time, Li Lingtian informed Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others to guard Liberty Sacred City. After arranging everything, Li Lingtian led Tang Qingyue and the others out of the palace quietly. After leaving Liberty Sacred City, a huge spaceship appeared before them. This time, the person driving the spaceship was a Martial Saint powerhouse from the War God Legion. The spaceship flew at high speed as Li Lingtian and the others entered the spaceship to cultivate. Flying to the Great Shang Kingdom was not a matter of a day or two. Li Lingtian was cultivating alone in a room. In this trip to the Great Shang Kingdom, if he wanted to take action against the Yun Peak Villa, he had to become stronger. Although it was impossible to increase his cultivation or strength in just a few days, he had to reach his peak condition. At the very least, he had to control his various divine powers and treasures more smoothly. Huangfu Yuyan and the others began cultivating as well when they saw Li Lingtian cultivating. They were Li Lingshan's most important helpers and naturally could not hold him back. The 5 elements reincarnation continued to run into each other and became more tacit. When the time came, it would naturally be more convenient to use. It was the same for Shenyuan Yingying. She possessed the 5 element sacred body and could share her cultivation base with Li Lingtian. However, she could not do so for some divine powers. Therefore, she also wanted to cultivate and increase her cultivation. In fact, even if she did not cultivate, she could still improve her cultivation base with Li Lingtian. However, if she were to cultivate, it would be equivalent to 2 people cultivating together. As she improved her cultivation base, Li Lingtian would be able to improve his cultivation base as well. In this way, Li Lingtian and her cultivation would be several times faster than usual. Such an improvement was definitely unprecedented. Now that Li Lingshan's realm had reached the peak of the 9th firmament martial emperor realm, it was only natural that he could not tell anything. If he could break through this realm, he would no longer have any bottlenecks when he reached the realm of the martial saint. The speed of their cultivation would definitely be extremely fast.
Naturally, Li Lingtian understood this. Furthermore, he could obtain the cultivation base of Huangfu Yuyan and the others. He could also increase the cultivation of Huangfu Yuyan and the others. However, Huangfu Yuyan and the others' cultivation was too low, so the effect of his increase could not be seen. It would be obvious if their cultivation base was on par with Li Lingshan's one day. After all, Li Lingtian was now a 9th firmament martial emperor while Huangfu Yuyan and the rest were only martial honors. There was a difference of one realm. If Tang Qingyue and the rest were martial supreme realm experts, they could have stood on the same realm as Li Lingtian and improved their cultivation. 10 Desolation consecutive strikes. Nirvana Wind Cloud Break. I've already cultivated the second move of the Tyrant Blade technique. The first move is a top-notch heaven-grade divine power, and the second move is a saint-grade divine power. If I can cultivate the third move, it will at least be a top-notch saint-grade divine power. It's just that I've just cultivated the second move and haven't reached the pinnacle yet, let alone the transcendent state. I wonder how long it will take for me to cultivate the third move. In the room, Li Lingtian organized all his trump cards. His current strength and his opponent were not trash like martial monarch realm experts, but powerhouses above the 5th heaven of martial saint realm. To deal with these experts, heaven-grade divine powers were enough. However, he naturally would not delay time with these experts. He could not afford to delay, so he immediately killed them. To instantly kill a martial saint, one could only use a top-notch heaven-ranked divine ability or a peerless saint weapon or divine weapon. The tyrannical saber art executed by the Heaven Extreme Tyrant Emperor Saber was a trump card with destructive power. The Heavenly Sword Unity executed by the Tianyu Sword, and the myriad returning swords executed by the Heavenly Fault Sword were both incomparably domineering. There was also the 4th layer of the True Dragon Body Barrier and the 5th layer of the True Dragon Body Barrier. They were all extremely powerful. Moreover, there were also the Heavenly Demon 8 Sounds of the Heavenly Demon Zither and the Saint Demon True Understanding. They were all heaven-defying existences, but they would not be used under normal circumstances. When it came to a true battle with a mighty figure, it would be the 9 stars in the sky. His cultivation was too far away from a martial saint's, so he could only use various divine powers and treasures to close the gap. Otherwise, let alone a 9th heavenly layer martial saint, even a random martial saint could kill him. After all, the martial artists of the divine martial continent could not escape the restrictions of their cultivation realms. I wonder what kind of effect it will have if I combine the Sky Universe Sword, Heavenly Fault Sword, and Heavenly One Sword into one. Li Lingtian reviewed all the divine powers and treasures before he finally refined the Heavenly Sword. With 3 heavenly swords hovering in front of him, Li Lingshan's eyes shone with excitement. Originally, the 5 heavenly swords were together, but they were separated. When the 5 supreme saint weapons were combined, they could destroy any divine weapon in the divine martial continent and fight against any supreme expert. Although it was a little unrealistic, if they really merged, the power would definitely not be underestimated. Now, 3 of the 5 heavenly swords had been gathered. The power of the 3 heavenly swords could all unleash a heaven-grade divine power that could destroy a martial saint. If the 3 heavenly swords were to be combined, who knew what the effect would be? This was also what Li Lingtian was most concerned about recently. However, it was not that simple to fuse 3 heavenly swords. Putting aside the difficulty of fusing 5 heavenly swords, even if 3 heavenly swords were incompatible, just like the 5 elements, if 2 of the 5 elements were missing, it would not be possible to reach perfection. Even if the 5 elements were gathered together, it might not be able to reach perfection. Therefore, without the 2 heavenly swords, it was impossible to reach perfection. The difficulty of fusing things that were not perfect was countless times more difficult than that of perfection. However, Li Lingtian had no intention of giving up. In this world, everything was figured out. The techniques of mighty people were also created by the strong, and the treasures were also created by the strong. Any one of them was done with the blood and sweat of a powerhouse. His ice, fire, 9 heavens were not created by him. Therefore, as long as there was wisdom, perseverance, confidence, and no fear of failure, there would be hope for success. Following that, Li Lingtian steeled his heart and refined the Heavenly Sword, Heavenly Fault Sword, and Tianyu Sword every day. Refining the 3 swords together could increase the tacit understanding of the 3 swords. At that time, the fusion would be even easier.
Swoosh, swoosh. In the room, there were more than 10 array formations supporting it. Li Lingtian sat cross-legged in the array formation with a serious expression on his face. The 3 heavenly swords in front of him were only 1 inch in size. However, the 3 heavenly swords emitted a dense aura that was enough to destroy the world. The exquisite heavenly sword spun continuously as Li Lingtian waved his hands to release his true essence. The Zhan Yuan nourished the 3 heavenly swords. In the Zhan Yuan, the 3 heavenly swords seemed to be roaming in the endless void without any restrictions. Instead, they were nourished by the Zhan Yuan. However, the 3 swords did not collide at all. It seemed to be harmless and fun, but any martial arts grandmaster or above would understand. If the refined treasures collided with each other during the refinement, they would be destroyed. Heavenly swords were heaven-defying to begin with, and there were 3 of them together. If they were to collide, Li Lingtian would be completely destroyed, and so would the heavenly sword. Li Lingshan's 10 fingers danced as he unleashed streams of true essence and magic arts. The magic arts and true essence guided the heavenly sword's trajectory. Heavenly sword body. At that moment, Li Lingtian shouted softly. Instantly, his entire body emitted a shocking sword intent, which filled the entire room. Fortunately, there was the support of the array formation. Without the array formation, this flying ship would have been completely destroyed at this moment. Moreover, if this sword intent were to spread out, all the powerhouses below the martial supreme realm would vanish into thin air. The appearance of the sword intent caused the 3 heavenly swords to tremble. They immediately began to tremble continuously as if they were excited. The heavenly sword body used his own body as the heavenly sword and fused with 3 heavenly swords. As the 3 heavenly swords continued to shuttle through Li Lingshan's body, Li Lingshan's face gradually turned pale. This was also because he had the heaven-defying ability of the heavenly sword body and the true dragon body protection. If it was any other martial saint expert, a random heavenly sword would have been destroyed in an instant. However, Li Lingtian allowed the 3 heavenly swords to shuttle through his body. As time passed, the 3 heavenly swords seemed to have sensed something. As the 3 heavenly swords were imbued with Li Lingshan's true essence and aura, there was a slight connection between them. Clang! A soft sound rang out, like a needle dropping on the floor. In Li Lingshan's awareness, however, it was as if a thunderclap had exploded. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, and at the same time, blood flowed out from his eyes and nostrils. The 2 heavenly swords collided. Even Li Lingtian could barely withstand it. However, at this critical moment, he did not want to give up, nor did he dare to give up. Once he gave up, he would be destroyed. Clang! Clang! The crisp and harsh sound continued to ring out as Li Lingshan's body began to tremble. Fresh blood continued to flow out, and his entire appearance was extremely ugly. However, he did not relax at all. Instead, he quickly waved his hands and used his magic arts and true essence to make the 3 heavenly swords more tacit. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.